Chapter 61. Soul Imprint. Cold and dark. Arya Kazan took a deep breath and stretched out his hand, feeling deep powerlessness and sadness. Looking towards the front, this is a dilapidated hut, so simple that there is even only a wooden bed, and the only light source is a candle that is about to burn out. It was a house in Turin's largest civilian area, and one of the few places that was safe for him. He spent the past 3 days here. In fact, he was going to find his aunt 3 days ago, because his father gave him a list of people he could trust before his death, and his aunt was one of them. But halfway through, he decided to change places first and come here to hide. Aunt can indeed believe it, but maybe his uncle will just take advantage of this and put eyeliner around those people to wait for him to fall into the trap. And in his mind, the person he met 3 days ago, the mysterious person, the business they were talking about. Now that 3 days are up, will he come? And he doesn't have his address, how he can find him? Like a magician. Arya suddenly remembered the man's grace and calmness that day, as if everything was at stake. But to be honest, he didn't have much hope in his heart. Because he always felt that it was a bit like a dream. 3 days have passed immediately, it seems that I think too much. Arya glanced out the window, it was getting dark at this time, and then glanced at the wooden door not far away, motionless. Zzz. Suddenly, the wooden door moved. Hearing the sound, Arya's eyes widened and her heartbeat accelerated inexplicably. His first reaction was not that Eli was here, but that his uncle had found him, but that's impossible, it should be safe here, how could it be possible find him? You look a little nervous. But it was not a rough mercenary's voice that entered Arya's ears, but a calm voice. It's you. Moonlight streamed in through the crack in the door, and Eli was dressed in black and had a cane in his hand. Nice place, but it looks like you haven't had a good 3 days. Eli glanced around, and then said to Arya Kazan, if it weren't for the mark of spiritual power, this place would not be easy to find. You, how did you find me? At this time, Arya was already stupid. He didn't expect that Eli actually found him. Could it be that Eli has actually been spying on him these days? As agreed, I brought perfume. Eli seemed impatient to listen to him and threw a bottle over. Arya? Arya took the bottle in her hand, and the liquid she was looking for was flowing in the bottle. He was stunned for a moment. Could this be the perfume mentioned earlier? He unscrewed the bottle, and immediately, the smell of the bottle penetrated into his nose. As the original heir of the Kazan Chamber of Commerce, his ability to identify perfume is naturally good. This smell, at best, is middle to high, but when he smells this smell, he seems to be able to feel an urge to approach. It is a collision originating from the spiritual level. Gollum. Elijah smelled and smelled helplessly, people were stunned, and it seemed that he could not understand how there was such a strange perfume, but then there was ecstasy. With such a great perfume, he would definitely be able to win the support of the nobles after the Chamber of Commerce. Once he has her support, and the people in the Chamber of Commerce who already support him, as well as those swingers, then he can use this to regain control of the Chamber of Commerce. As for why he is so confident in the energy of the nobles behind him. Because standing behind the Kazan Chamber of Commerce was the largest noble in the Lorraine Kingdom, Queen Cynthia, and only she could not even care about the benefits of a large Chamber of Commerce. Arya held the perfume tightly in her hand, as if it were the last straw. Wait a minute, are you forgetting something? Suddenly, a voice sounded, and Eli whispered on the opposite side. Oh, yes, business, I remember you said, this is a business. Arya also woke up like a dream, and asked Eli hurriedly. Then what do you want? There is a principle in business, called the principle of equivalence, you know. Eli approached Arya slowly and said. Of course, don't worry, I'll give you the equivalent of this perfume. Arya was stunned for a moment, then hurriedly said. No, that's not how the account is calculated. Eli shook his head. Isn't that how you count? How does that count? Arya was a little confused. You got into my car by accident, so it's fair to say that I should have saved your life, so it makes sense that your life should be mine next. Eli looked at Arya and smiled analyzed. Arya? He was stunned. He didn't quite understand what Eli meant, but he generally understood that Eli was giving everything to him, whether it was his life or the Chamber of Commerce he might have in the future. Impossible, you are too greedy. Arya's eyes widened. No, you got in my car, and the transaction has already started. Eli shook his head, and at the same time, the wizard's hand appeared instantly, and directly grabbed Arya, who was close at hand. Arya's eyes widened, but she couldn't resist at all. She could only watch Eli slowly stretch out her hand and put it on his head. Pain. Just for a moment, Arya felt as if his brain was pierced by countless needles, and an invisible but seemingly mysterious connection was formed between him and the man in front of him. This process lasted for 5 minutes before Eli stopped. After all, soul branding is not some simple witchcraft. Witchcraft soul imprint, zero-ring witchcraft, the function is to engrave the soul imprint in the target consciousness, so as to achieve a complete understanding of the target's thinking and enslave the opponent's witchcraft. Requirements: second-class apprentice or above. There is a huge gap in mental power, there can be no excessive resistance, and it is necessary to leave a mental mark on the target 3 days in advance before implementation. This witchcraft, Eli is also using it for the first time, because the conditions for using this witchcraft are really troublesome, and with his current mental power, he can perform at most 3. And the reason why he booked for 3 days was also because of this sorcery. As for when he left the mark, he lightly patted Arya on the shoulder before leaving the carriage. "What did you put in my head?" At this time, Arya was already slumped to the ground, looking at Eli with fear. He even had a feeling that Eli could fully understand what he was thinking at this time, and even killed him directly. "Didn't you already think of it?" Eli looked down at Arya. He planned to do this from the very beginning. After all, if he really just relied on self-consciousness and waited until Arya got the Chamber of Commerce, would he really be able to fully satisfy Eli's conditions? In fact, Eli felt that the pact was the most unreliable thing. Contracts on paper are floating clouds, and those engraved in mind are much more reliable. Impossible, how could there be such a method? Arya's face twitched. "Then try," Eli asked, looking at Arya. Arya's eyes widened. The next moment, as if the brain was torn apart, and the soul was burned by flames, while being pierced by countless needles, Arya let out a painful howl. This is the pain he has never experienced. Compared with physical pain, the pain of the soul is 10 times, 100 times more terrible. The torture lasted only 5 seconds, but Arya felt as if hundreds of years had passed. "Do you want to try again?" Eli asked again, but in Arya's eyes, it seemed like a whisper of a demon. "No, no, no," Arya said inarticulately. In just 5 seconds, he already fully understood his situation. Where did he get into the tiger's mouth before? This is completely jumping directly into the bottom of hell. "From now on, you are my slave, everything you have is mine, do you want to?" "Of course, you have another choice, that is, I will remove the brand and kill you, you can choose." Eli looked down at Arya and said. "Does he have a choice?" Tears welled up in Arya's eyes, and he understood that he had no choice at all. He suddenly remembered what his father once said. All gifts have already been marked with prices in secret. He didn't understand before, but now he seems to understand, but it's a little too late. "I do." After a few seconds, Arya finally nodded in resignation. He chose to live. "Very good, it's easy to accept." Eli's relaxed voice came, "Relax, I'm almost 30, you are only 19, when I die, you and your descendants will be free." A little light flashed in Arya's eyes, and he slowly got up from the ground. "You're in good spirits." Eli smiled, squatted down, looked at Arya and said. "Then let's talk about the nobles after the Kazan Chamber of Commerce, and how you plan to get back the Chamber of Commerce that belongs to me." Chapter 62. Sure enough, behind the Kazan Chamber of Commerce is Queen Cynthia. On the road, Eli pondered the conversation with Arya. Because of the soul imprint, Arya has been completely enslaved by him, and told him everything, including the biggest noble behind the Kazan Chamber of Commerce, and the trump cards he currently has. According to Arya, only 1/3 of the Chamber of Commerce are his uncle's people, 1/3 are people who depend on the form, and 1/3 are people he can trust. And his father also told him some trusted channels to contact the nobles behind the Chamber of Commerce and Queen Cynthia. That is to say, as long as Arya sends the perfume to Queen Cynthia, she has a 90% probability of getting the support of Queen Cynthia when she shows her status as the Orthodox heir. As for why it is 90%, it is because Eli feels that nothing in this world is 100% certain, and it is already a very high level to be able to reach 90%. Worth Eli's gamble. As long as it has the support of the Queen, the Kazan Chamber of Commerce will also be indirectly controlled by Eli. But then, it's Arya's business. Eli thought easily while walking on the road. Before leaving, Eli gave Arya some gold coins to facilitate his actions. This was also the last investment that Eli gave. After that, it was all up to Arya Kazan himself, and he would not make another move. If this is the case, Arya will not be able to succeed. This can only prove that Arya does not have that ability. Even if Eli helps him, the Chamber of Commerce will not be very good in the future. It can be said that Eli does not want to care, or it can be said that it is a test for him. Anyway, he doesn't expose that as the first factor. At present, no one can connect him with Arya. The only connection is Camellia Ali, but no one cares too much. As for whether he succeeded or not, if he succeeded, then he would gain huge benefits. If he failed, it would be assumed that it never happened. Anyway, it only took him 3 days. There are still many 3 days in the future, there will always be opportunities, it is only a matter of time. As for helping Roland, it may not be of great help, but he will at least save his life. This is the bottom line. After all, he really has few friends. Today was a secret operation, so Eli did not call a carriage, but walked back. Because there is a big market next to the slum, Eli decided to go shopping to see if he could pick up some leeks. But in fact, it was Eli who thought too much. After walking around for a few laps, Eli didn't find anything good, but his knowledge has increased a lot, but it is not without gain. It's time to go. After wandering around for a while with no gain, Eli was about to leave. Suddenly, as he walked around a corner, a booth caught Eli's attention. This is a corner booth. Tan is just an old man in linen, one leg is disabled, and the bottom of his trousers is still stained with mud, looking very sloppy. In front of him, there was a piece of cloth with various seeds on it, which seemed to be a stall specializing in selling various crops and other seeds. It is not these that attract Eli, but a dark green seed in the center, covered with cyan lines, seems to be exuding breath, breathing elemental power. Although Eli didn't understand what kind of seed that was, he knew it was definitely not easy. Immediately he walked over, no matter what he was, buy it first and then talk about it. Hello, what kind of seed is this? Eli asked the old man while walking to the booth, pointing at the seed. Seeing that the business was coming, the old man immediately showed his energy, feeling to explain to Eli, Sir, this is what I came here this morning, I picked it up on the road, I don't know what kind of seed it is, but I guess it must be seeds of some kind of precious crop, otherwise you see how he could be so big. Indeed, the size of this seed is the largest here, about the size of a peach, and not too big to look like a seed. How much? Eli asked directly, too lazy to talk nonsense. Sir, this is very expensive, this seed. How much? Eli asked again. 1 silver tar. No, 5 silver tars. The old man seemed to hesitate for a long time, and first called a high price, but seeing that the gentleman in front of him seemed unusual, he decided to call for a higher price. The sky is still pitiful, 5 silver tars are already the highest price he can think of. Okay. Eli nodded and threw it directly to the old man. Although he knew that the old man must be shouting high on purpose, he understood that these people were not too high. 5 silver tars, although he was a month's salary, was only a fraction of the one on the poker table. 1/10. Thank you, sir. The old man was also stunned. He didn't expect that the gentleman in front of him would actually pay directly. OMG! These are 5 silver towers. In fact, the low price in his heart is 50 copper towers. He stood up in a hurry. His lame leg almost made him fall, but he immediately put away the seeds and handed them over to Eli, for fear that Eli would return. Eli took over the seed and the deal went smoothly. In fact, it's just a seed, how could anyone pay attention? It's impossible for a noble young master to come to such a place, and there are no passing knights competing for it. If you stay calm, life is not so much fighting at all. Just like Eli, although he was also in the aristocratic circle, he really had no enemies, and there was no one who hated him deeply. Many people may not even remember Eli. This is the norm. Sir, walk slowly. After buying the seeds, Eli left, and the old man's respectful voice came from behind. 5 silver tars might not be enough for one of Eli's experiments, but for him, it was enough for him to find a place to sleep, buy some brown bread, and live for a few months. On the way outside the market, Eli briefly checked the seeds. The dark green seeds exuded a strange vitality. Eli confirmed that this was something he did not understand, so he simply put it away and headed back to the hotel. I'll take a closer look when I go back, and now I'll go back and talk about it. Soon, Eli was back at the hotel. I don't know if it was an accident or something. This time, I happened to meet the returning diplomatic team. Marquis Elena, headed by him, had a dark face. Needless to say, the negotiation was probably not going well. It seems that this Queen Cynthia is indeed not a simple person. Eli shook his head and turned to the second floor. He just traveled with a group, and diplomatic affairs had nothing to do with him. Instead of thinking about this, it is better to think about Arya Kazan, and what the heck is that seed just now? Chapter 63. Maybe because it was still early, when Eli returned to the room, Maester Lemon was not there. Eli went directly into the room and began to observe the seed. The whole body of the seeds is dark green, with cyan patterns all over them, and the traces of vitality are slowly radiating from them, and even Eli can feel that the surrounding wood elements are slightly mobilized. Everything tells that this is definitely not something ordinary. In fact, Eli's now a little unsure if this is the seed. After all, he doesn't know which level of seed, but it can still attract elements unconsciously, and even exude a vitality that even he is surprised. It's not right. It's not right. Eli became interested. He was a wizard not long ago, but he had never seen such a peculiar object. Immediately, all kinds of spiritual power exploration, vitality detection, information and element composition were used. The result surprised Eli. It was actually a seed, and the test told him that with a certain amount of incubation solution and enough time, it should be able to breed. As for what this is, he really hasn't observed it yet. Looks like I need a space in my yard. Eli shook his head and put away the seeds again. Whether it is a tree, grass, or flower, you will know when it is planted. At the same time, in Marquis Elena's room, 10 people sat around in silence. They are all high-level people on this cruise, including nobles, grand scholars, diplomats, and even great knights. Cough cough. Finally, Marquis Elena, who was still sitting on the lord's seat, opened his mouth, only to see him calmly cast a glance, and then said, "Did you give up now?" "Lord Marquis, but Queen Cynthia has no intention of negotiating peace at all, and we have not made any substantial progress at all." A nobleman wearing a white unicorn coat of arms hesitated and said, "Indeed." Colt also nodded. "Lord Marquis, I think the king must have thought of this outcome. He has been dealing with the kingdom of Lorraine for so many years, doesn't he understand her? Indeed, there is no breakthrough at all, but Queen Cynthia is a perfume fanatic, but unfortunately there is no top-notch perfume in the empire, which cannot attract the attention of the queen." One person shook his head and said, "Humph, give up." Marquis Elena was also a little angry, slapped the table and said, "The king naturally knows, but he still sent us here. What does this mean? He needs us to succeed. You can think about what happens after failure." Marquis Elena squinted at everyone, making everyone feel an invisible pressure. Even the great knight found it hard to breathe. It wasn't the suppression of vitality, it was simply the aura that made everyone nervous. "Otherwise, let's try again, but the queen doesn't seem to want to see us this time, and next time I'm afraid she won't even be able to enter the door." Colt University sighed with a sad face. Everyone was silent for a while. 5 days later, "We will visit once." After a few seconds, Marquis Elena made a decision, and the others could only agree, and then left one by one. Half a minute later, there was only Marquis Elena in the entire room. Looking at the silent room, Marquis Elena sighed. "I hope the next meeting will not be too miserable. Compared to the sad side of the Bern Empire. On the other hand, Arya will be much more active." After getting Eli's money, he first went to the mercenary chamber of commerce, hired several high-level knights to protect his personal safety, and then began to secretly contact a few people who supported him in the Chamber of Commerce and let them prepare early. And he also began to actively contact the contacts his father left him, and began to create a protective net for himself. As a matter of fact, as the son of the former owner of the Chamber of Commerce, Arya is actually not a sack of wine, but this time it was too sudden, which caught him by surprise. According to the original plan, he was prepared to do this, but considering that it would be useless to do so, he did not dare to take much action. That's why he was so excited that he chose to hide for 3 days after he got Eli's promise on the carriage that day. But for 3 days he did wait for the medicine to win, but he also lost himself. His life is no longer his own. However, he also looked away. Although he didn't know what exactly Alina was doing, after the 5 seconds of pain, he also accepted his fate. Slaves are slaves. At least he still retains a certain degree of freedom, and even if he obtains the Chamber of Commerce later, he can also enjoy the benefits from the Chamber of Commerce, but he needs to contribute to Eli without reservation. Like Eli said, as long as he's dead, isn't it as if nothing happened? It just might take a long time. By the time of his son or grandson, Eli would never be alive, and the Chamber of Commerce would still belong to the Kazan family, not Eli's personal belongings. After everything is ready, Ariaton finally decided to give his uncle a fatal blow, which is to go straight to the last and most crucial step of his plan to get the support of Queen Cynthia. 5 days later, Arya specially chose an exquisite perfume bottle and entered the palace with the perfume Eli gave him. Because it is the royal palace, only Arya enters. He was wearing a black shirt and black pants today, and his face and hair were carefully groomed. After all, he was seeing Her Majesty the Queen, so he couldn't go sloppy. Only after hearing that it was a top perfume and the face of the old Kazan, did Queen Cynthia decide to meet him, otherwise he would not be able to see the Queen. Following the guards, Arya walked all the way through the palace. It was also here that Arya realized how rich the kingdom was. The steps are made of white marble, and the corridors passing by are carved with reliefs carved with gold powder and silver powder. There are also dozens of gold gems everywhere. It is really extravagant. No wonder the Queen doesn't care about the Chamber of Commerce at all. Arya's throat moved slightly, and she was even more in awe of the Queen's. Soon, through a long corridor again, Arya was led to a room. "Please wait here, Her Majesty will come later," the guard said calmly, and then stood by the door. Arya looked inside. It was just an ordinary room, and the luxury was far less than the outside hall, but Arya opened her mouth wide when she saw the scene inside. Not because of the room, just another person sitting on the sofa in the room. "Uncle!" "Arya!" 2 voices sounded simultaneously. It was Arya's uncle who took away the Chamber of Commerce, and there was a box beside him. If Arya guessed correctly, it was a box for storing perfume. Arya's uncle also saw Arya and the perfume he was holding at this time, showing a strange expression. The two looked at each other. The room fell into silence. Chapter 64. Long time no see, Vito. In the end, it was Arya who broke the silence, and her uncle's name was Vito Kazan. Long time no see. Vito was stunned for a while, but returned to normal at random, cast a glance at him and said, "Arya, it's getting more and more rude, you don't even want to call me uncle, but it's so sad." "Sad? You have been very proud recently." The two looked at each other, and Arya said coldly, "It's all in the past, and we're still talking about what he's doing." Vito waved his hand as if he didn't care. Then he glanced around Arya from top to bottom, then looked at the perfume bottle in his hand, raised his brows and said, "This perfume bottle looks like the biggest selling perfume of the Kazan Chamber of Commerce, called Venus, but it's a pity it was early. It has been eliminated for a long time." "Yes, but the name of Venus will spread throughout the Lorraine kingdom again in the future." Arya also glared at him and said unceremoniously, "Haha." Vito shook his head in disdain. Although he didn't ask, Arya's purpose was self-evident. It's nothing more than wanting to rely on perfume to gain the Queen's support, and it just so happens that he has the same goal, and how could he have won him with that simple-looking perfume? "Arya, in fact, I am very sad that you left the Chamber of Commerce. If you are willing to come back, I will be very happy." Vito shook his head, as if feeling emotional. "I will be happy when you leave the Chamber of Commerce, thief." Arya gritted her teeth and said word by word, "Little bastard." Vito was also a little angry. Thieves are also swear words in this world. Vito stared at Arya, but didn't make a move. Not only is the place inappropriate, but what is even worse is that he is just an ordinary person, and his combat power is not as good as that of Arya. If he rushes over, he is afraid that he will be beaten. At this moment, just outside the door, there was also the sound of heels stepping on the ground. The two stopped arguing immediately because the Queen came. The red ornate door was gradually pushed open, and the Queen walked in slowly. The red skirt is inlaid with gold threads, the gorgeous crown is full of gems, and the face is not a standard oval face, but it gives a feeling of extravagance. The corners of the eyes are slightly raised, the facial features are three-dimensional, and the figure is hidden by the skirt, but anyone can feel the Queen's graceful figure, and the slender neck makes the whole look very slender. The eyes are piercing, full of majesty and oppression. Arya and Vito bowed their heads at the same time. Hello, Her Majesty. At this time, there were many guards behind the Queen. Queen Cynthia waved her hand, indicating that they should wait outside, and then walked into the house alone. Take it out and let me see your perfume. Queen Cynthia glanced at the two and said directly. The two of them didn't dare to say more, just standing in front of the Queen, they both felt a lot of pressure. After all, this is a real queen. For decades, she has led the Lorraine kingdom to its current prosperity, not because of her beauty, but because of her iron-blooded and decisive will. Your Majesty, this is the new line of fragrances I'm bringing to December. Vito slowly stood up straight, then took the box and opened it gently. Immediately, bursts of white mist drifted out and opened, revealing the scene inside. 12 bottles of compact perfume are placed quietly in velvet cases filled with ice cubes for temporary preservation. Your Highness the Queen, this is the latest top perfume of the Kazan Chamber of Commerce. December corresponds to the 12 months of the year. For example, this, January, is also called the moon of the early sun. It is characterized by its softness and affinity, which makes people feel it feels as if the winter is about to pass and the first day is rising. This is February. Vito hurriedly began to introducing the characteristics of each bottle. Queen Cynthia's eyes lit up and she was a little interested. Being a queen is a lot of pressure, and perfume is one of his few hobbies. Your Highness the Queen, would you like to give it a try? Vito respectfully took out the first bottle and presented it to the Queen. The Queen's guards didn't stop it either. After all, it was possible to get here, and that thing was tested. Moreover, Queen Cynthia was a great knight, and few of the guards could beat the Queen. The kingdom wakes up early, but Queen Cynthia often goes out with the army, and that prestige is really played out. Queen Cynthia took over January directly. The bottle of January is in the state of a crescent moon, like a crescent moon, and the bottle body is like a bump, and the reflected light is extremely beautiful. Queen Cynthia, I sprayed the perfume directly in front of my eyes, and suddenly a soft smell appeared. Queen Cynthia took a deep breath, and a satisfied smile appeared on her face. Very good. The fragrance should have reached the top 30 of her collection. She has a cold storage of perfumes, about 3,000 fragrances in it. Her Royal Highness, do you want to try February? Vito's face relaxed a little, and he took out another bottle of perfume. Of course, let's try one bottle at a time. In order to experience the new perfume, I turned down a very important negotiation, and the Kazan Chamber of Commerce did not disappoint me. Queen Cynthia seemed to relax a little when she encountered the perfume she liked. Very happy. As promised, in the next 10 minutes, Queen Cynthia really felt the past one by one, and every time she felt it, she would tell her how she felt, just like a shopping girl. Not bad, very good. After all the experience, Queen Cynthia had a smile on her face. The range of fragrances is really delicate and she loves it very much. This is what I should do, to produce the best perfume for Her Royal Highness. Vito also secretly applauded, but still respectfully said. Oh, and Arya, you are the son of old Kazan, and I have certain expectations for your perfume. Then the Queen asked Arya Kazan, who had been standing by the side. Arya was in a panic at this time. Although he experienced perfume that day, it seems that Vito's perfume is also very good. So he was very nervous, and he was stunned when he heard the Queen's call suddenly. And then reacted. The Queen actually knew his name, and was moved. Although he hesitated, he still took out his perfume. The bottle is like a harp, and there is a colorless perfume flowing inside. This is mine. Arya also offered the perfume. Queen Cynthia? Isn't this Venus? Queen Cynthia has a good memory. This perfume was one of her favorite perfumes, and it was precisely because of this perfume that the old Kazan gained his support. Naturally, she is very clear about the purpose of Arya and Vito, but it would be a bit too much to think that the same fragrance could gain her support again. I thought it was a bit of a surprise, but it seemed a bit disappointed. Her Royal Highness, the perfume is different, but the bottle is the same. Arya hurriedly added. That's it. Queen Cynthia nodded, then took out the perfume and sprayed it lightly. In an instant, a smell penetrated into Queen Cynthia's nose. But Queen Cynthia seemed to be in a sluggish state as if she didn't feel it. On the side Vito appeared calm, but in his heart he began to gloat. The silence lasted for more than 10 seconds before Queen Cynthia spoke slowly. You go out first. The unmistakable voice sounded, and Arya and Vito were a little surprised and didn't understand what happened, but they were quickly taken out of the room. Bang! The door closed slowly. Queen Cynthia finally moved. He closed his eyes slowly, and 2 tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. Chapter 65. Queen Cynthia has long since forgotten the last time she cried. As if it was her father, the day the previous king died, she cried. After that, whether it was the intrusion of a powerful country or the political disputes of the empire, she never cried, not because she didn't want to cry, but because she knew she couldn't cry. How can the queen of the kingdom cry? However, when she used the perfume and smelled it, she was sure that the perfume was ordinary and could not even enter her collection, but it made him feel like he had seen his father. When she was a child, his father always liked to hold him in his arms, and then give him the affairs of the kingdom. She would also tug at his father's beard, and then the two of them laughed together. That was when she was happiest. Venus, a real and good perfume. After 10 seconds, Queen Cynthia put away her tears and clenched the perfume in her hand. This perfume seemed to let her see what she wanted to see the most. It was a feeling that no other perfume had ever felt before. How can I put it? It was wonderful, but she really liked it. It's really a good perfume. Queen Cynthia was very happy. She hadn't been so happy for a long time. She sorted out the disguise, then called the guards to call Arya. Arya was in the next room with Vito, waiting. Arya, you can't beat me. In fact, the Chamber of Commerce should be mine. If you want to come back, I'm still very welcome. Vito was kind as always. Don't talk nonsense now, don't you feel disgusted yourself? Arya just glanced at him, then ignored it. He was anxious and didn't know what was going on. Is the fragrance too strong? Suddenly, the sound of the door opening sounded. A guard walked in, and both Arya and Vito stood up immediately. The guards cast a glance at the two of them, and then said, Arya Kazan, her lady queen wants to see you. As for Vito Kazan, you can leave now. Vito, struck by lightning, glanced at Arya who was not far away with a look of disbelief. How is this possible? Arya finally showed a smile on her face, and immediately followed the guards up. She wondered what the queen's attitude was. But when he saw the queen again, the first sentence the queen said was, I don't think the name Venus is good. Let's call it Xingguang in the future, the only light among the stars in the sky. Arya froze for a moment, then smiled. From today, the fragrance is called Starlight. Stable. Vito left in despair. Arya walked away proudly. Queen Cynthia returned to the hall and sat on her throne, holding the bottle of perfume in her hand. The icy throne Queen Cynthia was already used to it. She lightly sprayed a little perfume again, and then sniffed it, and for a moment, a strange attraction walked on her body. As for crying, it wasn't enough. The crying that time was just a backlog for too long. After venting, she was still the majestic queen of the empire. At this time, someone else came in the hall. Queen, Marquis Elena of the Bine Empire once again asks to meet. The person who came was a woman, who also exuded the aura of a great knight, but she was a little puzzled at this time. Looking at the queen, she always felt that today's queen seemed particularly attractive, which made her think. Well, Marquis Elena, let him come. Queen Cynthia nodded. Queen, but didn't you say that you were missing last time? The woman wondered. She grew up with the queen and had the closest relationship with the queen. At this time, there were only 2 people, so she asked that. Queen Cynthia glanced at her, and then said, the Bern Empire is stronger than the Lorraine Kingdom, but the Lorraine Kingdom is richer than Bern, which is not a good thing. So you need to give them a slap in the face, wait until the right time, and then negotiate the conditions, otherwise they will only think that you are weak. Didn't your Majesty tell me yesterday that you can't do it? Why is it fine today? The woman said strangely. It's nothing, I'm just in a good mood. Queen Cynthia cast a glance at her and didn't speak. Let's go, let's meet the Marquis of Bern. Queen Cynthia stepped off the throne and said calmly. It was originally planned, but she was in a good mood today, so she decided to advance the process. As for the reason, it may be that small bottle of perfume. At this time, in a conference hall, Marquis Elena sat in front, looking calm on the surface. Behind him, there are other people sitting, most of them seem a little nervous, and if they are nervous for a while, they may encounter rejection without hesitation. I hope this time goes well. Marquis Elena looked forward calmly, thinking. In fact, Queen Cynthia's repeated rejections have shaken him, who was very confident, should he lower the conditions or something. This queen is more difficult than expected. Just as they were thinking, suddenly, the door in front of them opened. Queen Cynthia walked in the front, followed by a group of people. The queen's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, and a sense of majesty exuded. The queen who has ruled the kingdom for nearly 20 years has already let other countries know that she is not easy to mess with. Everyone was seated. Marquis Elena took a deep breath and prepared to speak. I agree with the alliance, let's talk about the conditions. But Marquis Elena didn't speak, but Queen Cynthia did. What? Marquis Elena was choked in one breath, almost out of breath. At this moment, his mind was full of questions. What happened? Why did the queen change so much? The next day, Eli first received the news that Arya had received the queen's support in the morning, and had returned to the Chamber of Commerce, ready to clear veto out. This was normal, so Eli felt that his efforts were not in vain. A small amount of investment is about to turn into a huge wealth, which will allow Eli to gain financial freedom in the future. But the news received in the afternoon surprised Eli a little. The alliance actually succeeded. This made Eli look at Marquis Elena with admiration, but he didn't expect him to turn the situation around so quickly. But what he didn't know was that Marquis Elena was even more inexplicable than him, and he wanted to know why. But success is only the beginning, and the next step is to negotiate the exchange of interests. That is the time for the real confrontation. Marquis Elena will not give up the interests of the empire, and Queen Cynthia will definitely show her skills. This is estimated to take a while. At this time, the idle personnel they brought, such as doctors and scholars, finally began to play their role, and they were assigned to various departments of the Lorraine Kingdom to study and communicate. Eli and Lemon were assigned to a small team of scholars. Worked together on an underappreciated project. Chapter 66. Relics of the Empire. Until Eli heard the news from Lemon's ear, he still felt weird. There are actually scholars who specialize in research, looking for where a relic is. Don't be so surprised, this imperial ruin is not easy. Sitting on the carriage, Maester Lemon glanced at Eli, and the two were on their way to the research group. Maester Lemon inquired about some information from old friends in advance, and also knew some specific situations. The research team that their master and apprentice were randomly assigned to was a team about the ruins of the empire. Mainly to find and verify the authenticity of the imperial remains. Speaking of this relic, in fact, it was not too long ago, that is, about 200 years ago, but it has a great origin. At that time, the Lorraine Palace was not the Lorraine Kingdom. At that time, it was occupied by an empire called Orizon. Later, the country was destroyed by Bern, and before the demise, the king of the Orizon Empire hid all the treasures of the empire and most of the items. As for where it is hidden, no one knows, and this is the mystery of the ruins. Then the Kingdom of Lorraine was established, and it continues to this day. This topic was founded by a scholar of the Lorraine Empire more than 10 years ago. At that time, the Queen also paid a lot of attention. Many scholars, historians, and even map scholars all over the country participated in it. It also caused a huge sensation in the academic circle of the kingdom. At that time, there were even hundreds of people participating in this project at the same time, and the empire would have a lot of financial support every year. Then what did they find? Eli asked curiously after having a general understanding of the subject. What do you say? Maester Lemon rolled his eyes at him. Eli also patted his head. He really asked a stupid question. If he really found it, how could there be this research group? Could it be infected by Herman? Speaking of which, when my friend told me, he also said that this group will definitely give us a surprise. Lemon added, a little curious. Eli felt vaguely that something was wrong. Here, gentlemen scholars. At this moment, the carriage also stopped, and Eli and Maester Lemon looked at each other. Maester Lemon stepped out of the carriage first, followed by Eli. The two got off the carriage, looked at the scene in front of them, and fell silent at the same time. At this time, they were no longer in the urban area, but on a lonely road in the east side of Turin. There were low buildings everywhere, no more than 2 stories high, and most of them were dilapidated. They were left on this street, and it was still in the middle of the road. Looking around, there was no so-called project team. Maester Lemon looked at the ground mixed with gravel and soil in front of him, and asked a deep question, where is the project team? Teacher, there. Eli, who was mentally sharp, had already discovered the goal of their trip. Between the walls of two buildings not far away, there is a tattered sign hanging on the sign, and there is a linen waiting to be dried on the sign. Through the clothes, you can faintly see the 4 characters on it. Empire Ruins. Lemon and Eli looked at each other and understood what the so-called surprise was. Go and have a look, maybe it will be much better inside. Maester Lemon's mouth twitched, comforting himself. The two walked into the alley and tried their best to ignore the garbage and the running mice. At the end of the alley, the two saw a passage leading to the underground. Without a doubt, this is their destination. As a student, Eli politely asked the teacher to go first. Maester Lemon took a deep breath and strode into the narrow and dark entrance. Entering inside, here is a small basement, dimly lit, with a huge table in the middle, surrounded by bookshelves with various maps and documents. As for the researchers, there are 3 in total. One was buried in the map piles looking for something, one was lying in the mountain of books and bowed his head to study, and the other closed his eyes and seemed to be thinking about life. Eli and Maester Lemon looked at each other again and understood each other's meaning. This project? It seems, maybe, not sure that there is so little, a little bit of it is unreliable. Wow, is the newcomer finally here? Suddenly, as if hearing a voice, the man with his eyes closed opened his eyes, saw Eli and the two, his eyes lit up instantly, and he got up instantly. Hello, I'm the person in charge of the Imperial Ruins, welcome and welcome. The man held the hand of Bachelor Lemon and said excitedly. We came to communicate from the Burn Empire. Bachelor Lemon explained with a difficult smile. Oh, I remembered. It seemed that he had remembered something, and the man showed a sudden realization. Wait a minute, I'll pour you a glass of water. The man explained, then immediately ran to the shelf of a tray, looking left and right, and walked back embarrassed after a few minutes. Sorry, it seems that we don't have any extra cups here. If you don't mind, you can use my cups. The man was also a little embarrassed. It doesn't matter. Eli also twitched at the corners of his mouth. It seems that this project team is less regarded than they are in the parade. You guys don't seem to be doing well now. Eli glanced around, almost nothing was new, and the 2 workers who kept their heads down. Indeed, we haven't received a penny since the kingdom thought it was a stupid and wrong decision to spend time and energy on it, and scholars need money too, and now, it's just the 3 of us left. Yes. The man shook his head and explained sadly. Oh, by the way, you can call me Ike, the naturalist, he is Arthur, the scholar of history, she is Vera, the scholar who likes to study maps, but they are all fanatics and may not like talking and talking. Communicate. Ike stood, pointing at the other 2 to Maester Eli and Lemon. I really don't like to communicate very much. The 2 have come in for so long, and they have no response at all. Arthur, Vera. Ike couldn't stand it anymore, and finally ran over and pulled the 2 up. Arthur is a slightly thin man with dark circles under his eyes, while Vera wants a lady with freckles on her face. Although she is not dressed, her facial features are acceptable. Welcome. The 2 were pulled to greet Eli and Lemon. I'm Eli, this is my teacher, Maester Lemon. Eli also introduced, and the group barely knew each other. Welcome. After getting to know each other, a smile appeared on Ike's face and Arthur and Vera returned to work. Eli and Lemon felt as if they had entered a black shop. Chapter 67. Since you can't choose, you can only accept it. Eli and Lemon stayed here with simple luggage. The most fortunate thing is that the bedroom here is still good and relatively clean. The next morning. Early in the morning, Ike convened everyone and decided to hold a discussion meeting to discuss what to do next. Before the discussion begins, Maester Lemon and Eli, please introduce what you are good at, so that I can arrange work easily. Ike asked. I'm good at history, botany, and a certain amount of natural history, said Bachelor Lemon. I'm good at history and heraldry. Eli continued on the side. Well, botany may not be very helpful, but history is helpful to some extent. No wonder you are assigned here, but you must not be so clear about the history of Lorraine Kingdom. I need to think about how to arrange my work. Kay was lost in thought. Whoosh! Suddenly, a snoring sound reminded me that Arthur, who was on the side, was actually asleep, and left saliva on the table unscrupulously. Vera, who was on the side, nodded straight. Ike's mouth twitched when he saw this scene. Sorry, both of them like to work at night, always during the day. Ike explained. It's okay, let's continue. Maester Lemon closed his eyes in despair, and accepted it after a few seconds. Well, I continue, what did you just say? Oh, it's about history. The Kingdom of Lorraine was built on the basis of the Orizon Empire, and we also received most of the Empire's heritage, so our history here is a bit complicated. Speaking of which, if you want to talk, it has to start with Saren Merlin, the first king of Bine. Ike sat on the table and talked eloquently, but Eli's eyes widened. What did he just hear? What? Saleen Merlin, the first king of Bern? Saren Meditlan. Eli was short of breath and interrupted Ike hastily. Ike, wait a minute, how do you know the name of the first king of the Bern Empire? Almost no one knows this in the Bern Empire. Eli asked, he had been so excited for a long time. Oh, yes, this should be secret information, my brain, but it's okay, you have already joined the project team anyway, you will know some things. Ike patted his brain and said, forgot to mention, the group was directly concerned by the Queen at that time, so although we ran out of money, the authority had always been there. We can even go into the Second Imperial Library and look at some important documents, that's all right, but don't you know the name of your first king? Ike looked suspicious. I don't know. Eli nodded. It only took a moment for him to figure it out. He has never entered the real library of the kingdom, and some secret ones don't know, but here, some things may not be secrets, and the information here may be more accurate than the kingdom's. Because many countries will modify their content, just like Saren Merlin concealed his name and the people around him, but other countries will not. Faintly, Eli felt a little short of breath. If it is true, for him, this project team is a treasure trove. Treasure doesn't matter, more importantly, brings him closer to Bern's history, the real history. And judging from the name of Saren Merlin, it is completely that Saren Meditlan cut two words, combined with the previous information, and how can there be such a coincidence in the world? This Saren Meditlan is probably Saren Merlin. On the first day he came to the project team, he confirmed a problem that he had suspected before. This is really a treasure. Oh, yes, after all, this information seems to be quite concealed. Ike nodded. The two are powerless to complain, and you still say so at a high level of concealment? Forget it, let me continue. Ike shook his head. Speaking of Saren Merlin, he actually has a student. Few people know about this, but this student was the liaison between the Orizon Empire and the Bern Empire at that time, and was in charge of diplomacy, but it seems that something happened later. Problem, so the Empire destroyed the Kingdom of Orizon. Ike told slowly, Eli was already numb at this time. Fortunately, he is a little transparent, otherwise how could he be assigned here? Saren Meditlan still has students and is a diplomat of two empires. Although very doubtful, this time Eli did not ask, but prepared to explore it for himself. This time, he thought that his biggest gain was getting a chamber of commerce, but now he can only say that his structure is too shallow, and he has too little knowledge. Empire ruins? This is his treasure. Soon, Ike briefly explained the latter, but there was nothing that Eli wanted to hear, and then assigned work to the two. The main thing is to assign some historical documents for them to check. Of course, if they want to see higher level materials, they can also tell him that he can take the two to the second library of the kingdom. Lemon sighed, and Eli's eyes lit up. A month has passed in the blink of an eye. The Bern Empire and the Lorraine Kingdom were discussing the exchange of interests. Neither of them would let the other. Although the negotiations continued, there was little progress. Marquis Elena was in a hurry. I can't eat, I'm very anxious. Some people are anxious and some are happy. This month, Eli, as if the mouse had entered the oil barrel, was really thirsty. He not only checked all the documents here, but also asked Ike to take him to the second library and read almost all the materials he could read. This made him a huge gain. First, he determined that Saren Merlin was Saren Meditlan, which was an important discovery. Second, he found that Saren Merlin did have a student named Wes, who was said to have appeared here with Saren Merlin, which was exactly what Marquis Elena said before, they were from outside. Third, through material analysis, this Weiss died in the Battle of the Empire, and his items were seized by the Orizon Empire and collected into the treasury. The most important point is that when the Orizon Empire failed, the collection of the treasury was also in the ruins. Following the passing of the Orizon Kingdom, it disappeared without a trace. Eli guessed that Weiss should have a high probability of being a wizard too. So, now it is said that there is a relic of a wizard in the ruins of the Empire, and he is also a student of Saren Meditlan, which makes Eli a little moved. Well, it's not heart-wrenching, it's inevitable. The only problem is finding the Empire ruins. Eli felt it was time for him to contribute to the project team. For his own thinking is too vulgar, he just wants to help this hard-working project team. What is wrong with him? I can only blame him for being too kind. Chapter 68. Because of time constraints, they will leave here once the negotiations in the Empire are over. So Eli even stopped his daily meditation and dived into various documents, resting 7 hours a day, and working the rest of the time. This makes Lemon people stupid. Why are his students so diligent? As if thinking of the situation where he would leave on time when he was working, Scholar Lemon became numb. On the other hand, because of Eli's fanatical work, this also made Ike and the other two accept Eli as well, and to their surprise, it seemed that with Eli's addition, their progress seemed to have a difference. Progress little by little. 10 days later. When Eli came up with a complete chain of evidence proving that the Empire ruins definitely existed, the entire project team went completely crazy. Originally, their progress was still confirming whether the ruins actually existed. In fact, although everyone believed in the existence of the ruins of the Empire, to be honest, no real evidence has been found. This is also an important reason for the abandonment of the Empire. Oh my God, Eli, you are a god, I have to hurry up and report to Her Royal Highness the Queen, you are too powerful. Ike held the complete evidence in his hand and seemed unable to believe it. Arthur and Vera on the side also looked at Eli in disbelief. They are all fanatics, so their love for this project is completely beyond what other people can imagine. However, when a person entered the project team for 10 days and progressed faster than their progress in several years, the two of them were also a little sluggish, as if they had seen a ghost. I suggest not to report it to the Queen. Let's wait until we have more discoveries. Otherwise, if we can't find it, it will take a lot of work, and maybe it will be withdrawn directly. Eli said calmly. You're right. Ike nodded, and the other two agreed. At this time, although Ike was still in charge, the actual central figure had become Eli. It is also a good thing that the three of them really want to find the ruins, and the project team is very small, and no one in the trail knows their situation at all. On the side, Maester Lemon put down the pen in his hand and fell into silence. Didn't they come to participate? How could it develop like this? Let me tell you, in this project, Master Lemon actually contributed a lot of power. He helped Eli analyze all the materials, and Eli found all the connections from it, and then got the evidence. In fact, it's not that Eli can't finish it by himself, but the workload is huge, and they don't have much time, so they are really nervous, so Eli can only show his part of the talent. This time it really is life and death. The project team changed principles, and Eli also began to assign several people to work, and several people followed Eli's orders. It is unimaginable that 10 days ago, he and Maester Lemon were the people who were assigned jobs. In the blink of an eye, the status had undergone a huge change. It was also the first time that Eli was completely immersed. It was not until 20 days later, when Eli received that area had completely taken over the business of the Chamber of Commerce, that he suddenly realized that another 20 days had passed. During this time, they made rapid progress. With Eli's help, he was always able to clearly identify the clues in the documents, and then decisively eliminated the wrong answers. It can be said that the efficiency at this time made Ike feel that they were much more efficient than the hundreds of people in the past. On the other hand, Queen Cynthia is worthy of being Queen Cynthia. At the negotiating table, she fully demonstrated her toughness. The two countries quarreled for the exchange of interests, but no one was willing to take a step back. Because every step is a huge loss. At this time, Queen Cynthia is absolutely impossible to give in because of some perfume, because this is a real big power transaction, and only interests can be decided at this time. Everyone is running like a hot wheel, and everyone is very nervous. Some visible changes are taking place in the remains of the Empire project team. Because of the busy work, the environment there is even worse, there are piles of materials and garbage everywhere, and the alleys at the door are even worse when no one takes care of them. In the end, Eli couldn't stand it anymore, so he hired someone to clean it. But when they entered, they saw the unkempt Carrie, Arthur, Vera, and a few others who seemed to be in a crazy state. After cleaning, they almost ran out of there. Just like a mental hospital. Another 10 days passed. Does the location of the ruins confirm this large area? The progress of the project took a big step forward again, and Eli and others pushed the progress of the project one step further. After 10 days of reasoning, they confirmed that the ruins should be in an area near the northern mountain range of the Lorraine Kingdom, but it is very large, and it will take time to confirm it. At this point, Ike just felt dizzy. How is it going so fast? It seems that nothing has changed. It seems that everything has changed since Eli and Lemon joined, and Eli's role in it is self-evident, which makes Ike even admire Eli a little at this time. Arthur and Vera looked at Eli as if they were looking at God. As for Lemon, he was a little gratified. His students seemed, still very talented. Another 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Tensions permeated the diplomatic corps of the two countries, and until now, no one was willing to take a step back, keeping their progress where they were a month ago. Marquis Elena has a big head, but there is absolutely nothing to do. On the contrary, other people have provided a lot of methods, but they are useless. For a while, he thought of Eli, the young man who had saved his life, and wanted to ask him if we could do anything, but no one was found at all, only that Eli had entered the second library here for 5 days and did not come out. They can't see it at all. Marquis Elena sighed and then gave up. In fact, he was desperately ill and went to the doctor. How could Eli have any solution? 3 days later, Eli returned from the library. I found it. One sentence shocked everyone in an instant. I couldn't close his mouth for a long time. Arthur, Vera, and Maester Lemon all raised their heads, a little unbelievable. I found the place where the ruins were once buried, called the southernmost protruding corner of the Hodis Mountains, but it seems that there was an earthquake there more than 50 years ago, so the terrain has changed a lot, and now we need to do just find where he is now. Eli finished in one breath. After analyzing and verifying a large number of materials in the library, it is difficult for him to analyze it, but fortunately there are still materials left before, so he finally found a place. Okay, let's find it now. Vera, as a map scholar, nodded immediately. Several other people also helped one after another, and Maester Lemon looked at Eli, feeling that his student had really matured, a mature scholar, although he was not even a scholar. Seeing that everyone else was busy, Eli had a smile on his face. The rest of the work is not difficult and is left to them. As for him, of course he went to bed. Just kidding, 5 days without sleep in the library, even with his mental strength, he is very tired. Looking at Eli lying on the bed, the others did not have the slightest opinion, but felt that this was what it should be. Another 3 days passed. This day, Vera, who was buried in the map pile, raised her head, showed an excited expression, and shouted. I found it, I found it. Imperial treasure, we found it. Chapter 69. The next day. The news that the relics of the Empire had been found instantly exploded the entire Turin. Whether it was a noble or a scholar, everyone was shocked and stunned when they heard the news. No one really thought that this rumor that has been circulating for more than 10 years is actually true. And everyone also knows that the discoverer of this matter is the team of this project. But those who knew it all understood how the original 3-person group could be found, and only then did they know that all this happened after the entry of 2 men named Lemon and Eli. Raymond and Eli became famous all of a sudden, at least in the Lorraine Kingdom circle. I don't know how many bachelors of Lorraine Kingdom, and the masters want to know how they found it, and where is the real location of the ruins. Of course, some people suspect that this is a scam. Many people think that it is completely unreasonable to find something that has not been found for decades. As for the diplomatic corps, Marquis Elena, who had just concluded a failed negotiation, also heard the news. In addition to being shocked, he also decided to go to Eli and Lemon immediately, but when they arrived, they found that Eli did not go to the library this time, but was summoned by the Queen. There were other people, whether it was the Cold Master, or other scholars, the Great Knight, or others, who were also completely shocked. There are also many people who regret not meeting them before. Always have their own minds, each has its own melancholy. Just when others were guessing, Eli and the others were indeed summoned. A group of 5 people were brought into the palace by protection, and met the famous Queen in the main hall. It was the same hall. Queen Cynthia sat high on the throne, looking down at the entire hall calmly, and on her side was the female knight. Are you sure you found it? Queen Cynthia asked. Even she was in shock at this time. More than 10 years ago, this project team was established with her support. It was because the empire at that time was still very difficult, and a sum of money was urgently needed to fill the vacancy. Later, due to good development in other aspects, the gap was filled, so I didn't put more effort into it. But even she can't deny that if the relic is real, the wealth inside cannot be completely ignored even by the current empire, because it is necessary to know that the strength of the Orizon Empire at that time was no worse than the current Bern Empire. The Bern Empire used to be strong, and it has weakened a lot over the years. Yes, Your Majesty, according to the historical documents, we took a stab at it, and then found the site's former address, and then we knew the terrain changed by the earthquake 50 years ago. It took us a long time to determine the current location. Carrie looked on his face. Respectfully, his face could not hide his excitement. Well. Queen Cynthia nodded. As for whether it is true or not, you just need to confirm it when the time comes. I'm a little curious, how come I suddenly found out that your progress has been very slow in the past 10 years? Queen Cynthia asked. Go back to Your Majesty, this has to be helped by Maester Lemon and his student Eli. They are the main force. I even handed over the command to Eli in the later stage. Carrie was a little embarrassed. Oh. Queen Cynthia was a little surprised, and looked at the two people beside Carrie, one old and one young. Needless to say, the old one was Bachelor Lemon, and the youngest was Eli. Your Majesty, I'm Lemon, this is my student Eli. Maester Lemon was also a little stunned at this time. This was the first time he had met a person of such high status. Well, yes, if it's true, I won't treat you badly. You can take any 3 things from the secret collection at that time. Queen Cynthia nodded and said. Hear the promise. Everyone is very happy. As for the 3 items, they are left over from the Empire. I don't know how many high-value items are in them. Among them, the high-value items can even easily reach several hundred hinters. Well, since Eli is the main participant, then Eli, please tell me about your specific discovery process. Queen Cynthia smiled, and the troubles of the negotiation were relieved a lot. Eli is also very pleasing to the eye. Your Majesty, the process is like this. First, we checked 32 books, and then we verified the authenticity of the ruins and the legacy layer by layer, and then we checked a lot of materials again. Eli briefly described it. Tell me more about it. Queen Cynthia looked again. Okay, Her Majesty, it may be a bit too much, it will take a little time. Eli nodded. The knight next to Queen Cynthia pouted when he heard this, how much information there is. But when Eli only said the name of the data and reported it for 5 minutes before finishing the report, the corners of the female knight's mouth twitched, and she secretly thought that it would be better to be a knight without thinking. On the other side, Queen Cynthia's expression was as usual, as if nothing had changed, but her slightly trembling eyelashes still told her that she was not calm. It wasn't until she finished speaking that Queen Cynthia breathed a sigh of relief, and then sighed. You have worked hard. It's really too hard. This is simply more responsible than her thinking about national affairs, mainly referring to logic, thinking, and quantity. Are Bern scholars so strong? You are very good, and the person I sent out at night should have come back soon, and we will know when the time comes. Queen Cynthia received the message last night, and then summoned Eli and others today. At this moment, someone suddenly walked in from outside the hall. It was a knight. Her Royal Highness, we have checked the area and have confirmed that there really seems to be something under the ground there. We detected a large amount of gold, which should be the ruins. The knight knelt on one leg and said. It seems to be true. Queen Cynthia's eyes lit up when she heard this. At the same time, Eli and the others also breathed a sigh of relief. After all, they found it from paper, and no one knows what the specific situation is. Eli, you are very talented. If you want, you can come to the Kingdom of Lorraine, and I can even give you a title. Queen Cynthia said happily. Your Majesty, I just want to study my knowledge seriously, I'm very satisfied with the status quo. Eli declined. In the future, he might go to other countries after his death, but it's still early, everything about him is in King's Landing, and he's not in a hurry to leave. Okay, the door of the Kingdom of Lorraine is open for you at any time, of course, so is Maester Lemon. Queen Cynthia nodded and said nothing. Since it has been proved, and that place is not far from Turin, let's go there tomorrow and dig up the ruins. As if she was interested, Queen Cynthia said directly. The group looked at each other, the Queen is also impatient. Chapter 70. That night, Eli and the others were left in the palace, and Bachelor Lemon felt a little emotional. This was the first time he had met the queen of a country, and Eli was full of expectations for tomorrow's excavation. I also have to say that the queen is indeed very beautiful. Although she is almost 30 years old, due to the physical fitness of the great knight, she almost looks the same as in her 20s, and she has a kind of majesty that ordinary people do not have. But Eli cared more about Saren Meditland's students than the queen. I hope the legacy of Weiss is still there. This is the most important reason why Eli is so attentive this time. He didn't want to be busy. At the same time, in the palace. Still in the main hall, Queen Cynthia sat alone on the throne, as if thinking about something. Suddenly, a cloak was placed over the queen's shoulders. The weather is a bit cold now. The female knight stood beside Queen Cynthia, looked at the queen, and whispered. Since I was promoted to the Grand Knight more than 10 years ago, this wind chill is no longer enough to make me feel cold. Queen Cynthia looked at the front and said calmly. Maybe, I'm used to it. When we were teenagers, we were carefree at that time. Our favorite thing was to go to the top of the hall at night to watch the stars. We would all wear capes, otherwise it would be very cold. The female knight laughed on the road. Yes, but nothing can go back. In the face of time, everyone is equal. Queen Cynthia sighed. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, take it easy. The female knight put her hand on the queen's shoulder and said. Well, but not now. I heard that the time of King Burn VI is running out. Many countries have been in turmoil recently. We need more strength to maintain the hard-won peace. Queen Cynthia looked at the empty space in front of her. Hall, road. Okay, I will always be with you. The female knight also looked forward. The female knight is the general of the empire, responsible for managing the army of the kingdom, and the absolute supporter of Queen Cynthia. Together, the two have kept the country under control. They are the heart of this country. In the blink of an eye, the second day arrived. Eli and the others were led out of the palace early, assigned to war horses, and prepared to follow the soldiers to the place where the burial relics were buried. They were in charge of observing them. As for the absence of Maester Lemon, the main reason is that he is not too young, and he can't ride a horse. That's right, Maester Lemon can't ride a horse. But what Eli didn't expect was that when Eli and the others arrived, one person was already waiting. Queen Cynthia was wearing silver-white armor, with a sword hanging from her waist, a scarlet cloak draped behind her, and a magic horse under her body, which spewed a column of air when she breathed. Follow me, we will set off immediately, and it should be half a day. Queen Cynthia straightened her body and looked at everyone calmly. Eli was surprised. He didn't expect the queen to appear in person, and immediately followed by the others. In this way, the queen rode a horse and walked in the front, Eli and the others followed behind, and then surrounded by a large number of cavalry and soldiers, and the group moved quickly towards the target. Along the way, the queen didn't say a word, and no one around said a word. Because the queen is going to travel in person, the road ahead has already been cleaned up, and along the way, you can see many large trees that have been cut down, as well as removed rocks. 4 hours later, they arrived at the destination of the trip. This is the foot of a huge mountain range. The blue and black rocks are like a moat, and a large number of rocks are piled together like a small mountain. In addition to these, hundreds of people have been summoned here in advance, and they will completely occupy the surrounding area, ready to clean up everything in front of them. Is this where we found it? Vera exclaimed as she looked at the scene in front of her. Obviously yes. Eli replied in a low voice, looking at the mountains in front of him. According to the records of 100 years ago, this place should be a small plain, but at this time it is the corner of a small mountain range. It can only be said that the earthquake has changed a lot more here than Eli imagined. It is no wonder that the place has not been here for decades. Was discovered. Eli, we have already determined that there is something underground here, do you have any suggestions? At this moment, the queen spoke up, looking at Eli with her head tilted slightly. Your Majesty, your people must have already observed it. I still don't care about this kind of thing. Eli replied. Yet. Queen Cynthia nodded. He liked Eli, a young man, very self-aware and good-looking. Start, everyone has a reward. Queen Cynthia shouted to the knights and soldiers not far away. Everything is for Her Majesty. A deafening voice came out. Everyone took out the tools that had been sent here in advance and started digging directly. The sight of hundreds of people starting construction at the same time is spectacular. Eli can only see that the hill in front of him is a little shorter in an instant. The soldiers dig up the soil. If they encounter stones, the knights will directly smash them, and then some soldiers will smash the soil. The block is transported not far away. How is it? How are the soldiers of the Kingdom of Lorraine compared to Bern? Queen Cynthia asked Eli to the side again. Very energetic, I can feel their inner feelings for Her Majesty the Queen, and even some worship, you are their belief. Eli replied respectfully, he could really feel the soldiers' support for the Queen. Very novel answer. Queen Cynthia raised her brows and smiled, like a blooming flower. She asked many people this question, some of them said about the combat effectiveness of the army, some about the quality of the soldiers, and some about their cohesion, but Eli was the first to talk about faith. I investigated you yesterday, and suddenly felt that Bern really buried your talents. Why don't you come to the Kingdom of Lorraine? We are very short of talents like you here. Queen Cynthia invited again. She did feel a little bit that Eli was a very talented person. She sent someone to inquire about it yesterday, only to find out that Eli was not even a scholar, but a student of Lemon, and just an ordinary librarian, which shocked her. I originally thought that Eli should be a genius scholar of the Bern Empire, but it doesn't seem to be the case, but judging from the talent shown in the ruins of the Empire, this is definitely a rare talent. This only shows that Eli doesn't care about fame and fortune at all, which makes her like Eli more and wants to take him under his command. Sorry, Her Majesty, I still prefer the days of the library. Eli also had his own thoughts. If he really came here, he might get a lot of attention at that time, which would make him uncomfortable, and Saren Medetlan, the king of the Bine Empire, he has not finished investigating him, how could he possibly leave? Well, that's the same sentence, the door of the Kingdom of Lorraine is open for you at any time. The Queen nodded, indicating that she understood. She knew that Eli was not something he could persuade, and this was definitely not an ordinary young man. Dig it! At the same time, not far away, the ground suddenly dented, revealing a large hole at random, and the soldiers on the side shouted excitedly. Queen Cynthia's eyes lit up and walked over on a horse. Really timely. Eli looked at the leaving queen and relaxed a little. If the queen really invited him again, he really didn't know what to do. But the ruins have finally been found, and the next step is to check that Wes's legacy is still there. Chapter 71. Found it. Standing not far away, Queen Cynthia saw the golden light reflected in the hole, and her heart settled down, and then immediately ordered the soldiers to dig. The soldiers also kept expanding the cave, only to discover that the underground here was actually a large karst cave. At this time, it was covered with gold and treasures, and a large number of items were piled up together, like a sea of gold. All the soldiers' eyes lit up, but they didn't dare to make the slightest movement. Because these belong to Her Royal Highness. As the main force of the ruins, they are also the Queen's cronies and soldiers who have followed the Queen for many years. Move! The Queen gave an order, and immediately a knight jumped into the hole, and the others followed, and everyone went out to carry things. Eli also stood not far away, watching all this calmly, his eyes searching for the possible legacy of Wes. The things in the ruins were moved out one by one and loaded into the trucks constantly, like running water, and this work lasted for 3 hours before it was over. But Eli seems to have finally found his purpose. When a pair of soldiers were carrying a pile of boxes out, Eli's eyes suddenly sensed something. Looking at one of the boxes, he felt the magic reaction inside. However, Eli did not pretend not to see, and still glanced at it casually. Damn, there's something! Suddenly, a soldier exclaimed in the cave. Accompanied by shrill screams, 5 or 6 beasts as big as oxen ran out of it, each with 6 eyes and legs like sharp knives. One of the direct legs pierced the soldier's body and then tore it in half. Unknown magic spider, 10 level intermediate, 50 level beginners. Eli, who was not far away, quickly stepped back on a horse, and was sentenced to the strength of several spiders. A mid-level one is fine, but if they are all together, he will be very troublesome, and this is part of the way out. Maybe there are other spiders in the cave. This makes Eli thankful that he's not here alone. The Queen was riding a horse and was always at the front, and a spider also rushed towards her. I saw a flash of sword light, and the spider was directly torn in half. This was the first time Eli saw the great knight make a move. Compared with the knight, both strength and speed were far crushed. It was a completely different level, and Queen Cynthia had not yet used the power of the elements, Obviously, Queen Cynthia didn't expect that there were still magic spiders here. In order to avoid danger, after killing one, she still quickly retreated. After all, there are hundreds of soldiers, knights, and even a few big knights. She shot. Queen Cynthia stepped back, and the spider was immediately surrounded. The high-level knights with at least dozens of people surrounded and killed these spiders in the blink of an eye, and the intermediate-level spider howled angrily. Hiss! A wind blade flew straight ahead, and instantly an intermediate knight flew out, and then the spider ran directly towards the vacancy. It wanted to escape. However, it is naturally impossible to run. When I saw it running to a forest on the side of the mountain, suddenly a person rushed out from the side, holding a giant sword in his hand, and the strong wind element instantly wrapped around the sword, slashed heavily, and the magic spider instantly tear is torn. Is this the Great Knight? Not far away, Eli watched with interest. Logically speaking, the Great Knight is the top of the knight class, but now, it seems that it is equivalent to a second-class apprentice, and even a slightly stronger second-class apprentice can completely defeat the general Great Knight. And with this magic spider incident, the Great Knights also checked the inside immediately, and found 7 or 8 spiders, which were quickly killed by the Great Knights, and then burned directly by a fire. As for the treasure, it was carried out one after another. Follow the army to Turin. As for Eli, he was just an ordinary person and naturally followed the Queen and returned to King's Landing together. On the way, Queen Cynthia let him choose at will. Eli also randomly selected that box and 2 other high-value items. Queen Cynthia just smiled and sent them directly to Eli's hotel in Turin. As for what was inside, she didn't care. The entire Lorraine kingdom belongs to her, and she really doesn't think there is anything that can make her look at it. It took 4 hours to go, and 6 hours to go back, mainly because there were too many treasures. And with the return of Queen Cynthia, the doubts about the authenticity of the Empire's relics are not self-defeating, and those who suspect Eli and other people who are fake directly shut up. The scholar circle of the Lorraine kingdom also acknowledged the power of Lemon and Eli, but those who didn't know the inside story still felt that Bachelor Lemon should be the main credit. After all, he was a bachelor. Even Marquis Elena thought so, which made Eli still too young. However, when he visited Maester Lemon in person, he was extremely shocked. It turned out that Eli was the main force, and he was just a support, which allowed him to completely reacquaint the young man. However, there are still a few people who know the inside story, so although Eli's influence still has an influence on this matter, it is largely shared by Lemon, which makes Eli's attention lessened a lot. In the eyes of many people, isn't this the teacher leading the students to complete a major project? Ike, Vera, and Arthur were indignant about this and thought it shouldn't be like this, but Eli thought it was good. He had already got what he wanted, and the extras of fame were useless to him. He was looking forward to what was in the box. But what Eli didn't expect was that he didn't have time to open the box until he left. As soon as he went back, Marquis Elena found him immediately and hoped that he would join the diplomatic team. Eli refused in every possible way, but the Marquis was very determined and finally pulled him in. In this way, Eli blended into the team composed of the great scholars, great knights, and great nobles, and he stayed with them temporarily and started busy. Most of the time, Eli didn't have anything to do, and Eli only spoke occasionally. Then a few days later, negotiations began again. Eli also met a different Queen Cynthia for the first time at the negotiating table. She speaks sharply and refuses to give an inch. On the battlefield, she is an invincible knight. At the negotiating table, she is a king who will not let go of a single trace for the interests of the country. As for Eli, sitting in the negotiating corner, the negotiations still did not go well, but later Queen Cynthia talked about the ruins of the empire and made a speech. Originally, I wouldn't give in, but your people gave me a sudden inheritance, which is a great wealth. I am willing to take a step back in this negotiation and give up some benefits. Everyone looked at Eli in the corner, and Marquis Elena sighed that something good happened with this kid. As if it were a fuse. Elena also announced that she could take a step back, and just like this, the negotiations between the two countries quickly produced new progress. 10 days later, negotiations ended and the alliance between the two countries succeeded. And Eli, who originally only wanted to gain the inheritance of Saren Meditland's student, has somehow promoted the diplomacy between the two countries. It can only be said that it is very wonderful. After the alliance is successful, the Bern Empire didn't plan to stay any longer, and it just so happened that the exchanges were almost there, so they were ready to return to the Empire. Chapter 72. Arya, I'm about to leave here, let's talk about the Chamber of Commerce. In a luxurious room, Eli sat on the main seat and Arya sat on the ground. This is the Kazan Chamber of Commerce, and today Eli is here to see Arya for the last time. Okay, my lord. Arya nodded respectfully. After such a long period of turmoil, the Kazan Chamber of Commerce is now completely in his hands. As for Vito, he has already eliminated him and expelled him from Turin. He didn't kill the uncle directly, it was already a lot of face. Outside, he is currently the boss of the largest Kazan Chamber of Commerce in the Lorraine Kingdom, but only he knows that he is now equivalent to a tool person, and everything belongs to this young scholar named Eli. Eli is very famous in Turin these days, and Arya has easily collected a lot of information about him, but the more he knows, the more scared he is, mainly because he doesn't know Eli at all. Sir, the alliance between the two countries has been formed, and there will be many more connections between the two countries. Our Kazan Chamber of Commerce will also open a branch in King's Landing. You can contact there directly, no matter what you need, I will find it for you. Arya said respectfully. Okay. Eli nodded in satisfaction. Isn't that what he helped Arya for? Oh, I have something else that needs to be dealt with by you. As if remembering something, Eli suddenly said. You say. There is a Rose Chamber of Commerce in King's Landing. I heard that there has been trouble with raw materials recently. You know what to do. Eli glanced at Arya. Understood, my lord. Arya was not a fool, and naturally understood the meaning. Oh, that's all for today, I'll go first. Eli picked up the hat on the table beside him, buckled it, and walked straight out the door. I'll send you. Elijah stood up immediately. No need, also, don't do those little tricks, if there is a second time, I will kill you directly. Eli shook his head and said in a very normal tone. Elijah was stunned for a moment. Okay, my lord. Arya breathed heavily and lowered her head. Well, this time I'll take a little punishment, but next time it won't be so simple. Eli pushed open the door and walked out. Next second. A painful growl came from the room behind him. The black dragon flag is on display again. The motorcade of the Bern Empire slowly set off from Turin city and drove out of the city gate. Eli sat in the carriage, watching the bustling Turin behind him gradually disappear from sight, slowly pulled down the curtain, and sat in the carriage, feeling very emotional. This is the end of his first outing. It lasted for almost 3 months, but he seemed to have been separated for a long time, mainly because it was his first time to go out, so he felt this way. However, he also gained a lot. First of all, he gained control of a large chamber of commerce, which made his economy at least a lot easier in the future, and he had a larger and updated material supply channel. The second is to obtain the inheritance of Weiss, which made him full of expectations. What the heck did Saren Meditlin's students leave behind? Actually, he got the box a few days ago, but found that the box was locked. In order to avoid hurting the things inside, it has not been opened, but now he has carved the key. Oh, by the way, and he got 2 other things from the queen, 2 very valuable items, worth at least 500 hinters. After all, there is nothing else with magical power in it except this box. Even if there is, it has already been eaten by the group of spiders, so he can only choose some high-value items. Teachers are similar, so it is foreseeable that teachers will achieve financial freedom for a long time in the future. As for what was in the box, Eli was going to wait until he went back to talk about it. After all, this is the team, and there are many people. If there is any trouble, it will be even more troublesome. Night. The convoy stopped at one place to rest. Eli was called out to have something to eat together. After getting off the carriage, Eli looked back. Compared with the normal carriage, his carriage was much more luxurious at this time, both in terms of material and decoration, and it was not far from Marquis Elena's carriage. Place. I heard that this was specially ordered by Marquis Elena. Of course, the treatment of Bachelor Lemon is almost the same. This is the change of status. He followed the soldiers into a tent. At this time, there were only some high-ranking people in the tent, such as some big nobles and high-ranking scholars. Eli ignored them and found a place to sit and eat. Others looked at Eli from time to time, looking at Eli with admiration. Eli, come here and let me eat together. Suddenly, Marquis Elena, who was in the center of the hall, waved his hand and motioned for Eli to come over. Eli nodded and walked over. Eli, you have done a great job this time, don't worry, I will tell His Majesty the King, maybe he will summon you in person. Marquis Elena looked at Eli, showing satisfaction color. This time the credit is mainly from my teacher, I'm just doing it. Eli replied with a smile. It's okay in the Kingdom of Lorraine, even if it is summoned by the Queen, but this matter returns to King's Landing, it is unlikely that it will spread in King's Landing, and the success of the alliance and his teacher. Things won't make much difference. But if it was in King's Landing, the impact would be too great, and Eli hoped not to see him abroad. You are still so humble. Marquis Elena was eating, and then asked again. I heard that you are not married yet, do you want me to introduce one to you, but there are quite a few beautiful girls in the Elena family. No need, thank you Lord Marquis, oh yes Lord Marquis, what do you think of the Lorraine Kingdom issue? Eli quickly changed the topic. Lorraine Kingdom, he has a good queen. Marquis Elena pondered for a while, then replied. I don't know if your Majesty's union is a good thing, but I know that if we don't curb their development, it will definitely be trouble for Bern in the future. Marquis Elena seemed to be interested and began to analyze Eli in detail. Oh, is that so? On the other side, Eli was eating quickly. Hey, why are you talking about this? Let's talk about why you are not married yet. After a few minutes, Marquis Elena suddenly realized that something was wrong. Why were you talking about this? Lord Marquis, I'm finished. But Eli had already finished eating, and he said hello and left the tent. Marquis Elena looked at Eli's back and smiled. Such a good boy. Chapter 73. It's midnight when the team arrives in King's Landing. So when they arrived at the starting point, there was no one but a group of soldiers and some noble supporters. Eli and Lemon asked the driver to send them back at this time. As for whether it was a reward or someone wanted to see them, that would be discussed later. Soon, with the sound of hooves, Eli returned to his house. The pitch-black house stood in the darkness, and the vines clinging to the railing told Eli that everything was fine. Eli asked the coachman to carefully remove the box, and then asked the coachman to help move it in. Okay, sir, of course. The driver nodded, glanced at the house, and always felt that the darkness was extraordinarily terrifying, but it was just a gentleman, what could there be? He loaded the box and walked into the small courtyard. Whoa whoa whoa! He seemed to hear something crawling, making bursts of friction. The driver's heart beat faster, and he glanced, and found that there were some small animal corpses under the vines not far away, and he couldn't help but be more terrified. Just move here. Eli said suddenly. The driver, as if receiving amnesty, immediately put down the box, almost ran out of the yard, then got into the carriage and galloped away. What's wrong? Eli shook his head suspiciously, and then he suddenly realized when he glanced at the vines. It's been 3 months since he was away from home, and he hasn't fed the vines. But these are all minor issues, and I'll talk about it tomorrow. Eli can't wait to see what's in the box. Take the box into the lab and close the door. Eli directly opened the box. In an instant, the contents of the box were displayed in front of Eli's eyes. A crystal ball, and 3 books. Big harvest. Absolute big hit. There are not many things, only books and crystal balls, but it is enough to surprise him. Eli directly picked up the books. The 3 were Bloodline Selection of the Bloodline Warlock, Advanced Potions, and Advanced Alchemy. Fuck. Seeing the names of the 3 books, Eli opened his mouth the most. These books are purely knowledge-based. They were all the things he lacked the most and wanted the most. He first picked up Advanced Potions and immediately read it. In an instant, looking at the knowledge in the book that was familiar but at a higher level than what he had learned, Eli trembled with joy, as if looking at the holy book. Life felt as if a new world had opened up. Eli flipped through the pages voraciously, and stopped reluctantly after reading it for 2 hours. He almost forgot today's task, he has to sort this out first. Immediately, he picked up another advanced alchemy technique and read it carefully. He was also pleasantly surprised, because he could see how crude his original technique was. Every wizard has an instinctive quest for knowledge, even Eli. For him, this harvest is far more precious than a chamber of commerce. Oh, and one more. As if remembering something, Eli picked up the last book. Eli was really curious about this book. Because Saren Meditlin's notes actually contained very few records about the future of a ring wizard, so he seemed to vaguely know that the bloodline wizard seemed to be part of the wizard's learning. He didn't know much about blood. Open the book. It is found that there are various bloodlines, their advantages and disadvantages, and comparisons, as well as how to choose a suitable bloodline, and what bloodline should be incorporated into the promotion. Promotion into the bloodline? Seeing this line, Eli showed a strange expression. What does this mean? Isn't the promotion only requires the spiritual power to reach the standard, and then solidify a ring of witchcraft in the spirit? Why does it need to be integrated into the bloodline? That's not what Saren Medetlin's notes say. Could it be that there is something wrong with Saren Medetlin's notes? Eli is one head and too big. There are all kinds of doubts, but I can't figure out why it is directly integrated into the bloodline. If so, is it equivalent to directly abandoning the spiritual power of the wizard, and other aspects, specializing in the bloodline warlock? But do wizards really do that? Isn't this a complete violation of the wizard's code, the principle of spiritual power first? In addition, if this is the case, it is completely narrowing the path of the wizard. Even Eli suspects that he can only use the power of the bloodline. For the wizard, this is a complete weakening, and it is a big weakening. Can't it be integrated into the bloodline after the promotion? It's really weird. Eli looked at the book and didn't see the author. Strange, let's see what's in the crystal ball. With doubts in his heart, Eli picked up the crystal ball beside him. This is where the magic power fluctuations come from. The crystal ball is generally an important auxiliary tool for wizards. It is often used to record this kind of information, as well as experimental data, etc. It is also the part that Eli is most looking forward to. He feels that there will be some clues about Saren Medetlin. Spiritual power instantly connected. The contents of the crystal ball were also displayed in Eli's consciousness. Ignoring some experimental data, Eli found Wes's log inside and learned about Wes from it. It turned out that Weiss didn't come from the so-called wizarding place. He was a student accepted by Saren from a place in the east, and became a wizard apprentice, following Saren Medetlin all the way here. After coming here, I started to look for a relic, but I couldn't find it. Saleen Medetlin actually directly enslaved more than a dozen great knights. Then a group of people directly established the Bern Empire, helped find. He was in charge of the area of Orizon Kingdom, and then found that there might be clues here, so Saren Medetlin directly assassinated the king and some leaders of Orizon Kingdom, and destroyed the country, but he didn't find it, but he died unexpectedly. That's it. Eli blinked. It seemed a lot less than he thought. There is no real information either, the only certainty is that what Saren Medetlin seems to be looking for is a relic. That's it. Eli was a little disappointed. He thought he would know more about Saren Medetlin. But it seems very reasonable, after all, Weiss is just a random student on the road of Saren Medetlin, and he is only a second-class apprentice. From the crystal ball, how can he know how much? I am afraid Saren Medetlin didn't even take him seriously. He was just looking for a tool man. Looks like looking for something for Saren Medetlin. Take your time. Shaking his head, Eli put those thoughts behind him. Several books have given him enough surprises, and Eli feels that this is very good, and there is no need to expect too much. And the broken staff, Eli intends to dissolve it in time, and then merge it into his staff and use it as waste. However, the bloodline selection of the bloodline warlock still left deep doubts in Eli's mind. Why does the promotion recorded in this book need to be integrated into the bloodline, but Saleen Medetlin's notes are breakthrough spiritual power? Is there something here that Eli doesn't know about? In this regard, Eli remains cautious. Chapter 74. A month passed in the blink of an eye. The success of the alliance did make a difference at first, but as time went on, the eyes of others shifted to the concrete connection that began between the two countries. As for the fame of Maester Lemon and Eli, they spread within a certain range, but the habit of so many years cannot be changed. After Maester Lemon came back, he returned to his normal life. Eli was about the same, just as usual. This made many people stunned and lamented that there was a pair of wonderful teachers and students in the library. After all, if normal people suddenly gain such a big reputation, they will usually hype it up and take the opportunity to increase their influence. Well, when it comes to them, it's like hiding from the fame. But in any case, the fame of the two has been improved to a certain extent. As for the king, it seemed that he had no intention of summoning them. Eli felt that something should have happened, but this is also good. Eli can concentrate on the study and understanding of those advanced books. Another half-month passed in the blink of an eye. Due to the alliance, the relationship between the two countries has gradually deepened, and the Kazan Chamber of Commerce has finally opened its first branch in King's Landing, which means that Eli has a stable material channel from now on. Of course, it wasn't Eli who was the happiest, but Roland. Originally, Roland was about to be driven crazy by the previous events, and was even ready to sell his property, but suddenly received a cooperation request from the Kazan Chamber of Commerce. It made him sluggish and ecstatic. The desperate Chamber of Commerce suddenly caught up with the first Chamber of Commerce in the Kingdom of Lorraine, which not only kept them out of danger, but also gave them stronger power. As for why such a large Chamber of Commerce would suddenly take a fancy to them, Roland just thought of Eli going to Lorraine, but he didn't say anything. But that night, the two drank together and went to Luying Lane. Another month. Another thing Eli didn't expect happened. A deputy director of the Imperial Library has died. There are generally only 3 deputy directors of the Imperial Library, who are responsible for all aspects of the library as the assistant director, and because the director is absent all the year round, they are often the ones who jointly manage everything. There are a total of 3 candidates this time, and for some unknown reason, Bachelor Lemon is actually among them. There is also the famous Hella Maester of the Empire, and the other is a learned maester. But when he heard about Hella, the bachelor gave up directly. Just when everyone thought that Hella would compete for the position of deputy curator, something unexpected happened to everyone. Hella also gave up directly, which made everyone's jaw drop. And the reason she gave was that she was not as good as Lemon, which made many people feel astonished. In the end, Maester Lemon inexplicably became the deputy curator. Eli's take on this is, well done. In the future, he will be able to fish with integrity. Of course there is happiness and sadness. When Eli returned to King's Landing and saw that Herman had become a scholar, showing off before him in scholar's garb, Eli silently closed his eyes. Well, he's still a librarian. The process of Maester Lemon becoming deputy curator was also peaceful, and nothing happened. 3 days later, the curator summoned Maester Lemon. Eli didn't know what the two were talking about, only that when Lemon returned, he told the curator that he wanted to see him. After 1 day, the carriage carrying Eli and Maester Lemon left the library. On the carriage, "Teacher, what does the curator want to see me?" Eli asked. "Don't worry, it's a good thing," Bachelor Lemon said with a smile. Speaking of which, he was quite proud of himself during this period. After all, he was almost 60, but suddenly he became the deputy curator. He felt that this was an inexplicable affirmation for him. The only thing that puzzled him was why Hella would give up. If there was no result, he could only guess that Hella should not be interested in this position. "Well, teacher, tell me about the curator." Eli nodded and asked. Speaking of which, the director of the library is still quite legendary. His name is Severo Mesa. It is said that he was born in a slum in a small city. His family is poor, and his parents are both gamblers. He is often hungry for 2 or 3 days. Later, when he was 8 years old, because he owed too much money, his father and mother were directly killed, and he became an orphan overnight. With no money and no food, there is no need to say how miserable Severo Mesa's situation is, but he is born with a special ability, that is, he never forgets what he has seen. Then he recognized the characters with this ability, and soon became a scribe. And then came to King's Landing when he was 12, entered the library, and soon became a maester at 20, and also, he got the chivalrous breath by chance when he was 15, it turned out that he was very talented, and he also became a senior knight in the year he became a master. As for now, he is 50 years old. He is not only the curator of the library, but also a great knight. According to legend, he has a deep friendship with King Bern VI. It is exactly the same rhythm as a novel, and many people in the empire regard him as an idol. But it is very strange. Before he was 40 years old, he wandered around on various occasions, but after the age of 40, he seemed to disappear all at once, and it was difficult to hear what he did. "You said the curator, I don't know much about it, but now he seems to be hanging out in various countries outside Bern all year round, traveling everywhere." Maester Lemon hesitated and said. "I told him what happened to us in Lorraine, so he wants to see you, take it easy, the curator is very accommodating." "Oh." Eli nodded. "It seems that this is just an ordinary meeting, there is really no need to think too much." Eli chatted with the teacher, and they soon came to a manor. The manor is very large, but there are not many people. It is said that it was a gift from Bayan 6 back then. Lemon and Eli got out of the car, and immediately a housekeeper came to entertain them. Soon, they were arranged in a living room. Master will be back soon, it may take a while, the butler explained. What else can the two say? Wait. Fortunately, the curator did not make them wait too long. 10 minutes later, the butler came again. Mr. Eli, let's go. Eli stood up and followed. As for Lemon, he continued to wait. Originally, he brought Eli here today, and it has little to do with him. Following the housekeeper, the two quickly came to a room on the top floor. Dong dong dong. The butler knocked gently on the door. Come in. A strong voice sounded, and the housekeeper gently pushed open the door, making a move to let Eli go in alone. Eli nodded and walked in. He wanted to see who the curator was. Chapter 75. Open the door. This is a big room. It seems to be more than 100 square meters, and there are shelves on both sides. On the shelves are all kinds of strange things, including strange branches, stones with strange colors, and some ancient books. But these didn't surprise him. There were two glass columns on both sides of the center of the room, and a monkey, a wolf-like extraordinary creature, was floating inside. This curator seems to feel very strange. How, do you like my collection? Suddenly, a voice came. Only then did Eli see a large table not far away. At this moment, there was a man standing beside the table, spreading his hands and smiling. The man looked about 50 years old, with half 100 hair and a square face, but he was full of perseverance. His eyes were also bright and piercing, and his body was strong, like a bear. Is this the director of the library? Eli thinks he'll believe you if you say he's a general on the front lines. These are the collectibles I collected from various kingdoms, but I spent a lot of time. The man approached slowly and smiled at Eli. Hello, I'm Adam Starr, the current librarian. Hello, curator, I'm Eli Lucifer. The curator's collection is really good, just. Eli saluted and looked at the collections around him with a strange expression. Ha ha ha, don't mind, many people think I'm weird. The curator laughed, but the random smile subsided a lot, but they don't understand anything, they're just a group of frogs in the well. You know, this world is very wide. Yet. Eli nodded, confirming that the curator in front of him was indeed a little weird. Then do you know why I'm collecting these things? The curator looked at Eli and asked. I don't know. Eli felt that today might not be just a simple conversation, the curator should have other purposes. Well, indeed, it's a pity that you don't know anything. This world is very complicated. You may not know that there is another kind of power in this world. They control a kind of power called spiritual power. Pursue them, these are what I found in the process of pursuit. The curator said with a smile. Eli's surface has not changed, but his heart has already set off a storm. Isn't that what you mean by sorcerers? Does the curator know about the existence of wizards? Ah! Isn't the night the only power? Eli's eyes widened and he asked in confusion. Of course not, let me tell you, in fact, the first king was the one who mastered this power. I also knew it by accident. I have been chasing this power, but unfortunately I only know that they seem to be called wizards, and they don't know anything else? The curator seems to know a lot, regretfully said. Oh, looks to know, but not quite. Then you told me this. Eli seemed a little confused. Lemon told me about your performance in the Kingdom of Lorraine. I think you should be the same person as me. I have a good memory. Everyone knows this, but few people know it. I used to suffer a lot from it. I can see some things that ordinary people can't see, such as some floating dots of light of various colors in the air, but I don't even know what it is, until I became a great knight, I didn't understand what it was. The curator sighed. Road. Light spot? Element? Mental strength is so high that you can directly feel the elements, or it should be a special talent. This is completely the performance of a wizard's talent. You can distinguish the connection of so many books in a short period of time, you must have felt this way. The curator looked at Eli with a frenzy on his face. Eli finally understood why the curator wanted to see him. It turned out that he wanted to find the same kind. But he didn't intend to reveal it, so he frowned and said, Curator, I don't quite understand what you're talking about, what point of light, I just have better analytical skills than normal people. Is that so? The curator's face suddenly collapsed and he sighed. Hey, forget it, it looks like I found the wrong person again. The curator shook his head. The pursuit of wizards has always been his goal. But only he knows how difficult it is to find it alone. He wants to find someone like him to help him, but every time he sees it, he is disappointed. Forget it, let's talk about other things. The curator sat down lonely and said. You have performed very well in the Kingdom of Lorraine this time, which has greatly demonstrated the capabilities of our library. For this reason, I heard that you missed the scholar test because of this, so the library decided to directly award you the title of honorary scholar. Would you like to? The curator asked. I do. Eli nodded. He knows that honorary scholars are on the same level as scholars, but must have special contributions to be awarded directly. Compared with the enhanced version of scholars, Eli has no reason to refuse. Well, that's fine. It will be announced at that time, and then your scholar's robe and identity certificate will be sent to you. The curator continued, but his interest was obviously not as high as before. Well, that's all I have to say, you can leave first. Then the curator said directly. Well, Mr. Curator, I will go first. Eli nodded and walked out of the room. He really didn't expect that the curator was still a witch hunter. He should know a lot, and his talent should be very good, but unfortunately, he was born in this kingdom of knights, and it is almost impossible to become a wizard. Kind of a pity. But it's a pity that Eli didn't plan to tell the curator that he was a wizard or something, who knows what will happen. And according to what he said, he went to other countries to find traces of wizards, but he didn't seem to find them. It seems that if nothing else, there should be no wizards within a considerable distance, or very hidden. Eli guessed that it might be in the east, because Weiss was brought here from the east. When he is promoted to a third-class apprentice or a full-fledged wizard in the future, maybe he will be interested in looking for it, but for now, it is still wretched. Let the kingdom grow. Moreover, Eli expects that he will mainly stay in Bern for quite some time, because Saline Meditlan, the one-ring wizard, he has not found the purpose of coming here. Eli was also curious about what they were looking for. There is time. Eli shook his head, taking it slow, not in a hurry. Leaving the room, Eli found Maester Lemon. He didn't ask anything, and the two were about to leave. But just got out of the building. A huge bell tolled like morning, hovering over King's Landing. The bell was deafening, and it struck 9 times. Eli and Maester Lemon looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. 9 tones, only used when the king dies. Bern 6 is dead. Chapter 76. Bern 315 years. Bern 6 died, the nation mourned. It's almost time. Eli was stunned. Recalling the state of the king he once saw, he seems to be able to live for 4 or 5 years. It has been much longer than he expected, but it is normal. After all, it is a royal family. There must be some precious medicines. It seems that this is also the reason why the diplomatic corps was not summoned. After all, people are almost gone, and it is estimated that they have no intention to pay attention to these. Eli, hurry up. Lemon was also very surprised when he heard the bell, but years of life experience told him that it was best to go home at this time. In this way, the two got into the carriage and returned. Bern 6 became emperor in 265 years of the Bern calendar, and now 315 years, a full 50 years have passed. When he first inherited the throne, the Bayan Empire at that time was no longer as strong as it used to be. The weakest time in history. At that time, every country wanted to take a bite out of the empire. But the emperor was a real tough man, and soon, using his tough methods and tenacious will, he carried out various reforms very quickly, and the reforms soon paid off. Bern's strength became stronger again. Until now, although Bern is not necessarily the strongest in the nearby countries, it is not comparable to the weak. However, with the death of this emperor, no one knows whether Bern 7 can calm down the situation. It can only be left to time to verify. On the way back, Eli sat in the carriage, looking out the window. At this time, King's Landing is already in a mess. There are soldiers everywhere. They are holding weapons and maintaining the order of King's Landing. If someone wants to do something at this time, these soldiers will not be polite at all. It's going to change. Lemon on the side kept saying. Teacher, don't be too nervous, at least it won't affect the library for a short time, you just need to protect your own safety. Eli said aside. Yes. Lemon was a little nervous at first, but after thinking about it, it seemed like the same, and he gradually relaxed. The coachman, stop here, I'll go get something. When the carriage arrived somewhere, Eli stopped the carriage. Sir, why don't I just send you home directly, it's messy everywhere now. The driver hesitated. This is a bustling street, which is fine on weekdays, but it does feel very chaotic at this time. That's right, Eli, or go to my house and wait a few days. Lemon frowned. It's okay. Eli smiled and got out of the car. The driver was also very helpless, but he could only continue to leaving Eli. After getting out of the car, Eli ignored the flow of people and walked directly to the back of the street. Soon, he stopped at the entrance of a store and looked up at the Kazan Chamber of Commerce. This is the Kazan branch of King's Landing. Occupying the center of this street, the building also has 3 floors, both inside and outside. It has been gorgeously decorated, and the pride is exposed. However, despite the chaos outside, no one dared to break in here to make a $0 purchase at this time, just because of the 2 senior knights standing at the door of the Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Eli, are you here to get your stuff? As soon as Eli arrived here, someone rushed out. It was a grinning fat man. His name was Zhongli, and he was the person in charge of the place. Yes. Eli nodded. He asked for a document before, according to the time, it should be today. Sir, I have already prepared it for you, but it's so chaotic outside, I'd better let the guards take you back. Zhongli immediately asked someone to bring a small box from not far away and said. All right. Eli nodded. It is indeed a bit messy outside now, and it is really inconvenient for him to be an ordinary person. Chris, go and send Mr. Eli away. Zhongli pointed directly at one of the guards and ordered. Just kidding, before he came here, he was warned by Arya for more than half an hour to serve Eli well. This was his first request, and even the Developer Association was behind it. Although he didn't know why, he felt that it was good to be obedient. Just like that, Chris took Eli's box in one hand, followed behind Eli, and escorted Eli away. And along the way, some people didn't dare to do anything when they saw it. Like a walk, Eli soon returned home. After taking the box, Eli walked directly into the laboratory. Today, this material is used to configure the hatching liquid, and he plans to plant the seeds today. The configuration of the hatching solution is actually very simple. To a certain extent, it is just to stimulate the activity of the seeds, so Eli took only 1 hour to configure 6 copies. It should be almost there. Eli looked at the bucket of hatching fluid in front of him, feeling that the amount should be enough. Carrying the hatching solution, he walked out of the laboratory and went straight to the backyard. In the backyard, find pre-prepared pots. In fact, Eli originally planned to plant it directly in the backyard, but after thinking about it, he chose a flower pot, which is easy to move, even if it is really not enough in the future. The big deal is to transplant it. Take out the seeds. Still the dark green seed. However, there was no soil in the flower pot at this time, so he directly began to dig soil on the ground, put the soil into the flower pot, dug a small hole directly, and then buried the seeds directly in it. Pick up the hatching solution on the side and pour it directly into it. It was amazing to say that as soon as the hatching liquid entered the flower pot, it disappeared in the blink of an eye, until the last 3 pot-sized hatching liquids were poured in, and the soil inside seemed to be just a little wet, and there was no change. Oh, it's a bit powerful. Eli was a little surprised. What kind of seed is this, and it can drink so much? It was he who turned around and walked towards the house to prepare some more configuration. But at this moment, a hand actually appeared outside the railing not far away, followed by the other hand, and then with both hands supported, a person jumped in directly from it. The man was dressed in sackcloth and looked strong. Hey, there are still people. The man also seemed surprised. He just wanted to make some money out of chaos today, and then randomly picked a house, but he didn't expect that there were still people in this house. And if he read it right, the guy in front of him seems to be planting something. Pots, shovels, water basins. The man was a little shocked. It was so chaotic outside, but he was still in the mood to plant flowers. How big is his heart? Forget it, if you meet a fool, hand over the money, or don't blame me for being rude. The man shook his shoulders and said towards Eli. Robbery is against the law. According to the laws of the Empire, I would have no problem killing you. Eli held the flower pot with a strange expression. This was the first time someone had barged in front of him. Humph, what nonsense are you talking about, just hand over the money. The man said Eli's words as a deaf ear. As he spoke, he walked forward, but seemed to be blocked by something. Looking down, it was actually a vine. Vine? The man was a little puzzled, and turned his head behind him. In an instant, countless vines were entangled towards him. He didn't even react, and he was already pulled into the vines. Hey, it's illegal. Eli shook his head, then turned around and went back to prepare the hatching fluid. In the year 315 of the Burn calendar, Burn 6 died. That same day, Eli planted a seed that accidentally killed the intruding robber. Chapter 77. The chaos lasted for 3 days. Eli did not go out either. In addition to pouring nutrient solution on the seeds every day, he also studied potions and alchemy. Although the 2 books are not thick, there is a lot of knowledge in them. Eli is doing experiments while studying, which is very effective, but it is a waste of time. Normally, no wizard would be so stupid as to experiment one by one. After all, like any textbook, if you just read it, it's fine, but if you try to deduce all the proof processes, then you know how troublesome it is. And Eli is doing this kind of thing, and he never gets tired of it. Anyway, there is a lot of time, so take your time. It's really interesting that these 2 materials are combined to have such a change. After another experiment, Eli showed a satisfied smile. With the support of a top-level chamber of commerce, his experiments almost don't need to worry about materials, just tell the Kazan Chamber of Commerce, and they will help him find it. The only thing to worry about is whether or not the material is actually available here. There are also pyrotechnic potions, stun potions, and Azek's shield potions. There are many new potions recorded in advanced potions, and Eli intends to refine some for emergencies. But the only regret is that there is no spiritual potion in it, and he has to figure out a way in this regard. Take your time, don't rush. On the 10th day after the death of Burn 6, His Royal Highness the eldest prince succeeded to the throne. The time for the 45-year-old Burn 7 has finally come. But the situation he faced was not very good. With the death of Burn 6, the surrounding countries also began to riot. Began to frequently harass the Bane Empire at the border, testing the bottom line of the empire and whether the new king is as tough as Bane 6. The people also expected the king to give the necessary counterattack. But it is a pity that Bane 7 did not seem to inherit the toughness of the 6th, and actually began to accept softness and decided to renegotiate matters with several other countries, which shocked many people. After seeing the face of the new king, several countries also took off their masks and started wars. In the year 315 of the Burn calendar, the war began. A total of 3 countries attacked Burn from 3 directions at the same time. This year, Alex was promoted to the Great Knight, led the army to join the war, and defeated the main army in a battle. His heroism even surprised the empire. The descendant of the Marquis family also showed the loyalty of the nobles and successfully defended the territory of the empire. But the other 2 directions are not so smooth. One direction was directly defeated and a large area of land was occupied. There was also a fierce battle in the other direction. Many nobles also followed the imperial army to attack, including the descendants of the Gremory family and the 2 brothers of Rias. The war was successful, but the Gremory family fell into grief. Rias's 2 older brothers were ambushed and killed during the war. It is said that Gremory, who heard the news at the time, slumped in his seat and turned pale overnight. In the same month, Rias returned from the fief, ready to inherit the title. However, although it is a war, it is only a small battle. The 3 countries that have tasted the sweetness will naturally not give up, because they have already seen the weakness of King Burn 7. More troops are gathering at home, ready to send troops. But to their astonishment, the Kingdom of Lorraine publicly expressed its support for Burn, also launched an army, arrived at the border, and seemed ready to touch it at any time. One Burn is fine, but if they want to add another Lorraine, then they have to think about it. In the end, the army returned to the barracks, and the war was over before it happened. The Burn Empire also began to lick its wounds like a humiliated wolf. Everything stopped again. All wars are for profit, but you only need to know the pain after profit. The war lasted for half a year. 2 months after the war, Eli was invited to the banquet of the new Marquis of Gremory. At the splendid banquet, Eli saw Marquis Gremory, but compared to more than half a year ago, his condition was much worse. Not only was his hair all white, but his eyes became a little dull. At this moment, he is just a father. The banquet lasted for a long time, and at the banquet, Eli also saw Rias, the girl who used to study in the library with him. Compared with that year, the 24-year-old Rias is more moving, still wearing purple clothes, as beautiful as violets, but with reddish eyes, telling her sadness. She took the family crest from the Marquis of Gremery and wore it on her body. From now on, she was the Countess of Gremery. And Eli stood in the crowd and saw it all. At the end of the banquet, Eli was about to leave, but a guard came over. "Mr. Eli, the Count wants to see you." "Okay, lead the way." Eli stopped and decided to meet. On the balcony of a room, Eli met Rias. At this point, she had put on a simple set of clothes, and was standing on the balcony looking out. With her head lowered, Eli could clearly feel her sadness. Eli walked to the balcony silently, also looking outside. "Eli, this used to be my favorite place. I used to like standing here and blowing the evening breeze." Rias spoke with a sad tone. "The scenery is really good." Eli nodded. "This is the third floor, through which you can directly see the prosperity of the city." "Eli, long time no see." Rias turned around and looked at Eli. "It's true that I haven't seen you for a long time, you are still so beautiful." Eli said politely. "I thought I would never return to King's Landing in my life, but I didn't expect such an accident to happen." Rias had tears in the corners of her eyes. Indeed, there are many things that no one can tell. People are too fragile, but there are so many accidents. Eli sighed. This is why he never wanted to leave here. He knew that there might be a wizard's camp in the east, but he didn't take the initiative to go there. Without sufficient survivability, he will not leave here. "You haven't changed at all, you're still so calm and rational." Rias looked at Eli and said. "You too, it's almost time, I should go back, if you need anything, you can call me." Eli shook his head, then turned to leave. "It really hasn't changed at all, it's the same coldness." Seeing Eli's figure leaving, Rias suddenly laughed. "Don't you know how to comfort her? It really hasn't changed at all, even though it's been a few years, it's still the same as it was back then." It was as if time had given him no trace. Chapter 78. The impact of the war on the Empire was not large, but it had a huge impact on those who participated in the war. Some people died because of this, some people got rewards, some families lost their fathers, and some people had to leave here and go elsewhere. The cruelest thing is war. This was the first time he felt the war was so close to him. The war had a huge impact on Rias, and it also affected the Kazan Chamber of Commerce and the Rose Chamber of Commerce. Due to the impact of the war, some chambers of commerce were cut off from those countries in an instant, which made the power of the Roland Chamber of Commerce develop rapidly. Of course, Kazan Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce also expanded its power from it, and Eli benefited from it. Of course there are other effects as well. For example, there are many new faces in Luying Alley, several casinos have closed down, Alex has also begun to stand out, and Andre, the red-haired man from the Knights Academy, seems to have made a small profit and began to emerge. Everything is changing. Eli sighed in response. Over time, everyone has their own plans, and everyone has their own path. No one knows what will happen. 10 years later. Burn 325 years. The Empire's first snow had just passed, and the sun was beginning to clear. "Hoo, it's a little cold today." The door of a street opened. Eli walked out of here, looked at the frost and snow that covered everything in front of him, took a deep breath of fresh air, and suddenly felt a lot more comfortable. Speaking of which, he still prefers summer, and the heat is hot, at least he doesn't need to sweep the yard. Another year has passed. A gust of invisible wind swept through, and the snow at the door immediately dispersed to both sides. Eli glanced at the still green vines, turned and walked into the house. He didn't go to work this morning, he was just used to getting up in the morning to take a look. Returning to the house, the mirror by the door revealed his face immediately. He still has black hair and black pupils, but compared to 10 years ago, his appearance has changed a lot. First of all, his hair is much longer than 10 years ago, and he looks much more mature. He also has a face, and there is also a hair under his nose. The black beard, the eyes are deeper, and there is a special charm. So handsome. Eli pouted and sighed. In 10 years, it is naturally impossible for him to maintain the appearance of 10 years ago. The appearance in front of him is changed through the mask of the faceless. Of course, not only the head, but also the body seems to have become stronger. This is because Eli prepared a special potion 5 years ago, which makes his current body strength enough to match that of a high-level knight. The large robe covered his well-proportioned body, but no one could ignore the explosive power underneath, which further improved Eli's self-security. However, these are secondary, and it depends on the changes in mental power. At this time, his mental power has reached 14.0. How should I put it? It is a bit slow. If it is really compared to those geniuses, it may be really bad, but for Eli, it is that he feels his strength compared to 10 years ago. At least twice as strong. This is mainly due to the improvement of potions in the past 10 years, as well as the increase in the power of witchcraft brought by spiritual power. It can be said that at this time, Eli, if he encounters a newly promoted great knight, can completely kill, but if he encounters the top knights may not be able to fight, but there is a high possibility that they can escape. How should I put it? Now Eli is a little fortunate that he was left in the kingdom of knights after crossing over, not the real wizarding world, otherwise, I am afraid that his life is far less nourishing now. Time is so fast. Looking at herself in the mirror, Eli sighed. 10 years seem to have passed in a blink of an eye. The main reason is that these 10 years have been relatively stable, and nothing major has happened, only some small things have happened. The first is Roland. In terms of career, under the leadership of Roland, the Rose Chamber of Commerce at this time is already a well-known large chamber of commerce in the Empire. It has achieved certain achievements in various fields of the Empire. In the family, this kid already has 2 sons. The oldest are 5 years old. For this reason, Roland laughed at Eli a lot. As for Luying Lane, currently only Eli is going alone, and it would be a little inappropriate to bring Roland. Next is Rias, the Countess of Gremory is also assisted by the old Count, and the family develops hotly, which makes the old Count of Gremory a little relieved. The only regret is that her daughter did not watch it. In the object, which makes him very anxious. There was also Hela. Eli later found out by accident that she was a well-known bachelor, and was very surprised, but this lady didn't seem to have been to the library, and she always thought he was Lemon. She has become a bachelor last year. André, Knight Academy, also became a general. There is also Marquis Elena, who unfortunately passed away due to illness the year before last. At that time, Eli also went there and found out that he was really terminally ill, and there was nothing he could do. After that, Alex took over the banner of the family and began to become the new Marquis Elena. Oh, and Eli's senior Kurt, who was attacked and killed by a beast during a study abroad. Very regrettable. As for Herman, this guy is still working in the library. He is much more mature and stable than before, and his daughter is already 9 years old. When he sees Eli's face, he calls him uncle, which makes him feel a toothache. Of course, this is only with the people near Eli. On the other hand, the Empire has also changed a lot. Compared with his predecessor, Burn 6, Burn 7 is much weaker, or, in other words, this is a mediocre king in all aspects. In the past 10 years, the strength of the Empire has not only not been improved, but even slightly weakened. Whether it is economic or military, it is not as good as before, and even its political power is much weaker than before. Over the years, the interests of the Burn Empire have been damaged a lot, but Eli feels it is okay. At least the domestic and foreign environment is relatively stable, but no one knows whether this stability can be maintained. There are fewer births. Eli attributed the reason to this aspect. Burn 6 has only 3 children in total, 2 princes and 1 princess. The princess doesn't like politics. She has already inherited the title and lives in a city in the southern part of the empire, while the second prince is even more outrageous. The eldest prince didn't look so bad. As long as Baron 6 has more children, he will not have so few choices. It's a pity, let's see the next one. Eli sighed. Good guy, this term has only been in office for 10 years, and Eli is already thinking about the next generation. In the afternoon, Eli glanced at the flower pot that had not yet germinated and walked out of the house, but as soon as he walked out the door, he found that there was an extra letter in the mailbox at the door. From Librarian Severo Mesa. The purpose is to tell Eli to see you at his old place. Chapter 79. Director, long time no see. At a bar, Eli meets Severo Mesa, the current director of the library. It's really been a long time. Severo filled a large glass of rum, drank it, and the liquor left directly down his beard, and then said. After meeting 10 years ago, the two became inexplicably good friends after an accident, occasionally drinking together to communicate his progress in finding a wizard. Where did you go this time? Eli looked at the curator. Compared with 10 years ago, he was also much older. His face looked a little haggard at this time, but his eyes were still bright. As before, he would travel to various countries every once in a while, looking for traces of wizards, but so far he still found nothing. I went to the kingdom of home this time. I heard that there is a very mysterious area there, and people often go missing for no reason. As a result, I only found one that was filled with fog all the year round, and there was only a magical beast in it. Severo shook his head. A bit disappointed. He is obviously much older than I was 10 years ago, but the desire to find a wizard in his heart is stronger, burning his aging body like a flame. No, but it's normal, no one knows where they are. Eli said regretfully. He really hoped that the curator could help him find the wizard camp, but unfortunately there was no one. Curator, I'm curious, why are you so obsessed with wizards, isn't it bad now? Eli asked. You don't understand. The curator shook his head, looked at Eli and said. I think you are a good person to communicate with, but you don't seem to understand me that well. For me, I have been looking for it for 20 years, and it is already a kind of obsession that I cannot give up. That's it. Eli nodded, still a little confused. Okay, where does the curator plan to go next, further afield? Eli asked again. No, it took me 4 years to go out this time, and I may not be able to come back if I go further. The curator shook his head. This time I plan to leave the empire and go to the historical Saline Maida. I'm going to look for the places Tring has been to, what he may have left behind may be more reliable. Well, come on. Eli encouraged. It may be that no one ever talked to him about this, so Severo Mesa told Eli everything he knew, including the name of the first emperor, and the possibility that he was a wizard, and the king was forcibly used witchcraft devours death and more. This intrigued Eli, a lot of which he didn't know. After all, Severo Mesa has been at the top of the empire for decades, and the information collected is not comparable to Eli. Eli heard it with gusto, and Severo Mesa took him as a confidant. Well, yes, I will act in the empire next. This may be my last hope. Where are these wizards? Saying the point, Severo was put on the table. The rum flew straight out. On the other hand, Eli pursed his lips. Indeed, maybe wizards don't exist at all. Eli nodded in agreement. No, they definitely exist, but they may not be nearby. Severo shook his head, denying Eli's guess. All right. And then I'm going to get rid of the position of librarian and concentrate on doing this. Suddenly, Severo exploded a bomb. What? Are you going to step down? Eli's eyes widened. Yes, I've decided, I'm 60, I really don't have much time, and I haven't contributed much to the library over the years. I think it's time to give up my position. You don't need to persuade me. Severo Mesa said firmly. Severo said so, what else could Eli say? I just sighed. After all, it's hard to find a curator who doesn't care about anything. I hope that the next curator will not be too troublesome, but maybe the teacher can become the curator, but it is unlikely. After all, Bachelor Lemon is already 68 years old, and he is not too young. Well, Burn 7 is different from his father. In fact, he has certain opinions on the independence of the library. If I leave on my own initiative, he may move. You can remind your teacher. Severo added. Okay. Eli nodded. This is bad news. After all, if the library becomes the king's vassal, if nothing else, at least Eli will be very upset. After all, he has been working here for 18 years, and he has certain feelings. Well, that's all, I should leave. After drinking, Severo and Eli said goodbye. Goodbye, curator, I wish you success this time. Goodbye, I will succeed. Severo strode out of the room, his eyes firm. Wizard, he will surely find them. Severo left, Eli had a few drinks, and turned to leave. Outside the door, here is a noisy bar, a large number of men and women dance on the dance floor. If you see it right, go directly to the room behind the bar. It would certainly not be allowed elsewhere, but this bar is on Luying Street. That's right, this is where the two became friends. 9 years ago, after Eli came out of here, he met Severo, who also just came out, and the two gradually became acquainted with each other. Mr. Eli, you have to go. Before Eli could walk out the door, a brightly dressed woman greeted. She is the nightingale here, the woman who manages the place. Yet. Eli nodded. In the past 10 years, the girls here have changed a few times, and he knows many nightingales here. As for why they would take the initiative to greet Eli, the reason is very simple. If you spend more than a few winters here every year, they will treat you the same way. Then go slowly. The woman smiled and sent Eli out. It was already afternoon when we got out of here. Eli glanced at the sun, turned and headed back home. It's a bit late to go to the library at this time, so let's take a day off from work. The next day. It was raining, but I still didn't go to work. Day 3. Eli goes to the library. As soon as I walked to the door of the library, I heard the guards chatting. Did you know? Curator Severo voluntarily resigned, and a deputy director also left. Coincidentally, a child of a noble family was directly airborne to become the deputy director. You said that this is the king who wants to take over the book. Hall. One of the guards asked worriedly. Who knows? Another guard shook his head, suddenly seeing Eli from the corner of his eye. Hello, Mr. Eli. The two guards immediately stopped talking and said respectfully. As the students of the deputy director, Eli and the others are very familiar. Well, don't gossip. Eli nodded and walked into the house, but the guard's words were circling in his mind. The nobles airborne the deputy curator, and so fast, this is most likely the work of the king. It's only been 1 day, can't you stand it? Eli shook his head, ready to talk to the teacher. Chapter 80. Lemon, this can't be done. Now that the library is so sloppy, I think you have to shoulder at least half of the responsibility. How can the library export talents for the empire like this? Before entering the teacher's room, a sharp and sarcastic words came out. Eli frowned, but went in anyway. At this time, there were 2 people in the room. One was the 68-year-old bachelor Lemon. At this time, he was sitting on a chair, squinting, and holding a pen tightly in his hand. Opposite him, in front of the table, a man who looked about 28 years old stood arrogantly and kept accusing Maester Lemon. It can't go on like this. It's too rambling. At least I saw those guards who dared to talk during work hours. This kind of discipline is really poor. If it was placed in our family, they would be severely whipped. The man looked indignant. Bluntly expressed his dissatisfaction. Ah yes. Maester Lemon nodded desperately. Humph, Lemon, I'm also the deputy curator, please have a better attitude. The man's mouth twitched when he heard this. Forget it, let's not talk about it, I'm going to see the rest of the library now, let's talk about it. Shaking his head, the man walked directly towards the door. Just when he met Eli who came in, the man didn't say anything, just raised his head high and strode out, looking arrogant. Eli looked at the man's back with a puzzled expression. Who are you? Teacher, what is this? He asked as he walked over to Maester Lemon. He's the new deputy curator. Maester Lemon said helplessly when he saw that Eli was here. Is that him? This guy doesn't seem easy to get along with. Eli said strangely. Oh, it's not just that it's not easy to get along with, this guy has now regarded the library as his home, but he is going to vigorously implement many new measures. Maester Lemon sighed. For example, your original vacation is too much, you have to have it, or it is too loose, and you need to arrive at 7 o'clock every morning. Eli? This is something people can do. Then other people don't object. Eli frowned. He didn't come for a day. Did such a big thing happen in the library? I oppose it, but it's useless. Lemon's bachelor placed by on the table, got up and said, he was sent directly by the king, and the purpose must be for the position of the curator. It seems that the curator leaves as soon as possible. They want to make this place their private land. That's it. Eli's brows furrowed even tighter. If the library becomes the king's private land, then it is not a good thing for him, and it is difficult to be as free as it is now. So, get ready to go to work on time. Maester Lemon looked at Eli and said with a smile. He's 68, and he's about to retire. In fact, it's okay, and they won't do anything to him. Okay, I'll go to work first. Eli nodded, let's wait for things to develop, and then take action according to the situation. Saying goodbye to the teacher, Eli went to his own office and started working on the paperwork. After becoming a scholar, he has his own independent office. He is in charge of a very leisurely position with very little work. As long as he is finished, he can go home. After an hour. After Eli finished his work, he was ready to leave work early. Suddenly, the sound of violently pushing the door open suddenly sounded. A man strode in, raised his head, and walked in front of Eli with a proud face. It was the man he had just seen in the teacher's room. Eli is a little pissed, won't you knock on the door? You are? Eli asked with a smile. Hey, I'm the deputy director of Othello. I'm currently in charge of the library's various indications. I saw that you didn't come to work yesterday. You can tell me what's going on. Forget it, or don't talk about it, you are this month. The salary is halved, and I hope you don't miss work for no reason next time. Like an announcement, Othello didn't give Eli any time to react. After speaking, he left with his head held high, leaving Eli sitting on the chair. Trouble. Of course he doesn't like the salary, but it doesn't mean you can deduct my money casually. There are regulations in the library. You can take 3 days off at will in a month, so it is legal that he didn't come yesterday, but Othello doesn't seem to know, and he just fined half the money. Typical aristocratic style. Hey, as soon as the curator leaves, trouble will come. Only now did Eli remember Severo's goodness. This guy, who spends most of his time in other countries, doesn't care about the library at all, except to arrange some work when he comes back, but even so, the library is always in order. But now with his departure, everything has changed unknowingly. Hopefully it's not too much. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. This half-month is also the most uncomfortable half-month for all the old library staff. In the past 2 weeks, the guards were not allowed to speak, were not allowed to leave their posts a day, or even entered the library to use the toilet. The working hours were also greatly improved, from 7 hours a day to 10 hours. Of course, these are not the most unbearable, but the most uncomfortable thing is that Othello cut everyone's wages by 20% in the name of cost saving. Everyone has great opinions. But it wasn't these things that made Eli the most uncomfortable, but the increase in working hours made him have to stay in the library for a long time, which was equivalent to working overtime in disguise, and Eli was very upset. And these days, Eli finally got to know Othello's background. It turned out to be a direct descendant of a Viscount family. The family territory is very close to here, and the family mainly deals in finance, and it seems that there are some other contacts. The reason why Othello can become the deputy director is that he is actually a bachelor himself, and his sister, who seems to be a popular person around the king at present. This may also be a temptation by the king. Finally, as another 5 days passed. According to time, the library should also re-elect a new director. Logically speaking, this is a good thing, but it seems that someone intervenes. The new way to select the curator is to vote, and the voters are some scholars who have never heard of Eli. Ask again, good guy, all of them are noble scholars. Needless to say, once elected, there is little chance that Lemon and another deputy director will become director. In fact, it is reasonable for Othello to be the deputy director of the library, because generally speaking, the deputy director of the library and above is not a noble, but this time, it seems that the king has some ideas. The main reason is that this time the action was very fast, and by coincidence, this time many scholars just left King's Landing, because they went to a discussion meeting in a city, so no one cared. No. Thinking of such a situation, Eli shook his head. If Othello is really the curator, then TM will be in trouble. Not only does one more arrogantly break into your room at any time, while telling you that your salary will be deducted, and even directly dismiss you, while pointing at your nose and scolding you, the nobles with poor work may also be subjected to inexplicable overtime. Just thinking about it, Eli already felt his blood pressure rise and he had to do something. He would never allow anyone to disrupt the calm environment of the library. Chapter 81. Eli has been in King's Landing for so many years, and he is not a vegetarian. He has his own information channels, and soon he also inquired about the specific information of the Othello family. Sir, Othello's family is the Corsi family. The family was awarded a title because of Othello's grandfather 30 years ago, and is still a firm supporter of the royal family. In one room, Eli's appearance had already changed into something else. Listening to the person in front of him, he was an intelligence dealer in King's Landing. Well, have you heard about their family's main property? Eli asked. It seems that their family doesn't have any property at the moment. The dealer replied. No estate. Eli wondered. Well, there is really no industry. The Corsi family once accumulated the first round of wealth through lending, but with the development of time, they gradually gave up this black industry, and then mainly through in major chambers of commerce. Contact and make a profit by reselling goods. The dealer said with a serious face, in fact, they rarely do business for nobles, but the gentleman in front of him gave too much. Well, the Chamber of Commerce. Eli raised his brows, as if he was in trouble. What about the connection behind them? Eli asked again. My lord, it seems that their family's connection is mainly the Sarah family, an Earl family. It is a family with a long history. Every year, the Corsi family spends a lot of money to them. Well, got it, tell me everything you know next. Eli nodded and motioned for the man to continue. There is actually not that much information about the Corsi family, mainly the industry, background, contacts, and other aspects. Soon, Eli recorded all the information. If you want to fight, you must first inquire clearly and make sure that the other party can handle it yourself, otherwise he will not shoot casually. And from the man's information, Eli also learned an interesting place. That is the background of the Corsi family, the Sarah family, an existence like a vassal of the Marquis Herman family, an old rival of the Elena family, which is interesting. I seem to have some ideas. Eli paid the money and turned to leave. Noon that day. Elena family. Eli and Alex sat opposite each other. What's the matter? I heard that something happened to the library. Are you the teacher who wants to help you? Compared with the past, Alex is almost 40 at this time, but his body is still strong and his eyesight is strong. Brilliant. He looked at Eli and asked with a smile. In fact, over the years, whenever he has a problem, he often asks Eli for advice, and Eli can always give him some good advice, but Eli doesn't ask for anything in return, which annoys him. No, this time I finally found him. I really need your help this time. Eli said directly. His idea is very simple, rather than attacking Othello, it is better to directly attack his family and the source. As long as the Corsi family has been greatly affected, Othello's problems will naturally be solved. That's it. Eli began to speak. So what do you want me to do? Will you entangle the Herman family? Alex was a little puzzled after hearing this. Yes. Eli nodded. How do you solve the problem of the Sarah family and the Chamber of Commerce? Alex was a little confused. You don't need to worry about it, don't worry, you will get a part of the business interests of the Corsi family. Eli said with a smile. Well, in fact, none of these matters. The Herman family is our old rival. These are just trivial matters. Alex said indifferently. He looked at Eli more than that. This scholar, who seems to be content with the library, is actually a very smart person. He is not interested in fame and fortune at all, and he has never even seen a shortage of money. He is a strange person. Well, that's it, I'll leave first. Eli chatted with him for a while and left. Rose Chamber of Commerce. No problem. Roland agreed directly. Unlike Alex, he was much more rounded than 10 years ago. It's all trivial matters. Don't worry, the Rose Chamber of Commerce is no longer the small one it used to be. These are all minor issues. After listening to Eli's words, Roland agreed directly. Although outsiders thought that it was him who established the connection with the Kazan Chamber of Commerce 10 years ago to overcome the difficulties, only he knew who helped him, even if Eli didn't say anything. Well, will this affect you in any way? Eli asked. No, it's just a channel. If it's broken, someone new will come up. Roland didn't care. Okay, in fact, for the benefit of the time, I'm going to let one of our old friends eat with another nobleman. You will also share a portion at that time. Although it's not much, don't mind it. Eli said with a smile. Okay, I can't help you. Roland laughed. Then Roland started a familiar topic again. Eli, when are you going to get married? You can't do this. See you next time. Eli hurriedly walked out of the Rose Chamber of Commerce. Afternoon. No problem, Mr. Eli, I will definitely do it for you. Zhongli said flatteringly. You can rest assured that our Chamber of Commerce has deep ties with other foreign chambers of commerce. You can rest assured, and I will keep this matter strictly confidential and will never tell anyone. Zhongli said solemnly. He was sent by Arya, and he is also his most trusted person, and in order to ensure Eli's safety, he even placed Zhongli's relatives in a place where they could see it to ensure that it would not affect Eli. So, Arya is still very sensible now. Well, then I'll go. Oh right, I still need some blood of Warcraft, you can help me find it. After dealing with this matter, Eli continued. Okay. Zhongli nodded, it was difficult, but they would try their best to do it. Okay, then I'll go first. Eli nodded and left here again. Night. Castle of the Gremory family. You want to give me a gift? Rias was wearing purple clothes, sitting lazily on the sofa, smiling at Eli. She is more mature, less lively than before, but more intellectual. Yes, but need your help. Eli smiled. Okay, no problem, I promise. Rias said directly. Aren't you asking what it is? Eli said with a strange expression. No, I trust you, will you hurt me? Won't. That's fine. It's mainly what you said. I can do anything for you. Rias glanced at Eli and replied with a smile. Well, thanks. Eli then told Rias the matter. Okay. After listening, Rias agreed without hesitation. It's over, do you want to have a drink? Rias stood up and invited. No, it's too late. Eli refused. Are you late? It's only 11 o'clock, and you've been here more than once. Come on, let's talk about it. Rias covered her mouth and smiled coquettishly. Okay, let's talk about it. Eli reluctantly agreed. Just drink a little. Chapter 82. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. This afternoon, Eli had just finished a day's work and was ready to return. Othello pushed open the door roughly, dropped a document directly, and said arrogantly, You have finished processing this document for me tonight, and I want it tonight. Deputy Director Othello, I'm off work. Eli said calmly. Humph, I said I want it, or when I become the curator, you are ready to leave, and your immortal teacher. Othello didn't care, and snorted coldly. Just be happy, I'm off work, you should leave this work to someone else. Eli shook his head, without even looking at the document, and left outside. No wonder he is the villain, this guy is completely clueless. You. Othello's eyes widened when he saw that Eli dared to leave in front of him. You come back to me. Angry voices spread throughout the room, but Eli had already left. Just kidding, his tradition of not actively working overtime for 20 years, how can it be destroyed today? He died working overtime in the last life, and this will not happen again in this life. Wait for me to be the curator. Othello gritted his teeth and threw the document to the ground angrily. There are 5 days left until the election of the curator, and then... Night. Othello returned home. At dinner. Othello sat on the side with a smug look on his face, and on the opposite side was his father Amir. How is your library? Amir asked, eating foie gras. Everything is fine, but some little bugs are very troublesome, I will take care of them when the time comes. Othello gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. That's good, you seize the opportunity. If you become the curator, our family will instantly compare to the Earl family. Amir also showed a smile on his face. He knew that he was being used as a gunman, but he would not let this opportunity pass, there was no way, the benefits were too great. I hope there won't be too many accidents. Amir said, looking at Othello. What accident can happen? Othello looked disdainful. The next day, Othello and his father ate breakfast as usual, and the atmosphere was peaceful. Suddenly, a terrified voice suddenly came in, and a man rushed in, rolling and crawling. Sir, it's not good, there is a problem with our business. Several large chambers of commerce have suddenly joined forces to block our channels. No chamber of commerce is willing to ship to us. The man gasped and said with a look of fear. What? Amir stood up directly, and Othello was also a little shocked. What happened? What's going on, what about the foreign chambers of commerce? Amir didn't care about eating anymore, this was a matter of family lifeline. You must know that what they are most afraid of in this kind of unfunded business is which side has problems. If this side does not ship, the chain reaction caused by the other side is enough to cause them to collapse directly. Master, I don't know. The man said with a cry on his face, now not only domestic chambers of commerce, but also foreign chambers of commerce have given up business under the leadership of the Kazan Chamber of Commerce. Now we only have 2 or 3 channels left. Gollum. Amir's throat moved slightly, cold sweat streaming down his back. There was absolutely something going on that he didn't know. What the heck is going on? He turned to look at Othello beside him, and said, "Have you provoked anyone recently?" "Who can I provoke? It's not just a bunch of stinky scholars in the library. I didn't move those who had status, or there was a student from the deputy director yesterday who ignored me and left." Othello was a little flustered, but he said it anyway. "Come out. That shouldn't be the case." Amir shook his head. Othello was a little stupid, but not that stupid, knowing that some people couldn't be messed with. "No, if that's the case, go to Count Sarah now." Amir's legs were a little weak, but he still arranged for a carriage immediately. He glanced at Othello, who was in a panic behind him, and cursed, "Don't panic, we still have a backer, no problem." Othello calmed down a little. "Amir, I'm sorry, I can't help you this time, I'm really sorry." When he heard the news from Earl Saleen, Amir also panicked. "What happened?" Amir asked worriedly. If Earl Saren couldn't help them, it would really be over. "I don't know. Since yesterday, the Gremory family and our family have had a conflict. It's inexplicable. The Countess is trouble, and has no brains. We have to protect our own property." Count Sarah looked inexplicable. "The Earl, if this is the case, then we are finished." Amir's face was already a little blue at this time. On the way, he had already used means to threaten those chambers of commerce, but he simply ignored him, which made him know that someone higher must come forward, otherwise this matter would be difficult to pass. Earl Saren is the Earl with the closest interests to them. If he doesn't help, it seems that something big has really happened. "Don't worry, this matter also hurts my interests. I will go back to the Marquis Hermann family today and ask for help to hold off Count Gremory first, and then deal with your affairs." Count Saleen comforted. "That's good, I'll be relieved with your words, Lord Count." Amir seemed to have grabbed the life-saving straw and heaved a sigh of relief. "Look at you, what are you panicking about? It's a small problem. I'll be able to help you tomorrow." Earl Saren whispered. Amir nodded. "One day is fine, but if it really drags on for 2 or 3 days, 3 or 4 days, then it will really be over. The family is afraid that it will go bankrupt and sell the property, and the aristocratic status will plummet." But what he once made was that he had already seen the huge benefits of the unfunded business, so he chose this path. What can earn more money with unfunded business, not to mention that they still sell bulk goods to earn the difference in price, and what they earn is information bad money. "Okay, you can go back and wait for the news." Earl Saren was also the first to at this time, and sent Amir away first. "Okay, Lord Count, then I'll go first." Amir wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and turned to leave. Night. Corsi family territory. Amir and Othello and one of his older brothers sat in the living room, silent, waiting for news. "Father, don't be nervous, there's definitely no problem with the Hermann family." At this time, Othello lost his previous pride, but he was still confident that he had not gone to the library for a day today. After all, he really couldn't care less. "I don't know who has issued a rule not to be late yet." Amir nodded. Suddenly, someone came in from outside the door. Amir knew him and was the housekeeper of the Sarah family. "How is it?" Amir hurriedly stood up, while Othello and his brother also stood up, feeling a little nervous. The butler didn't say a word, bit his lip, and said, "I'm sorry, Lord Viscount, this time, I'm afraid we won't be able to help you that way, and the Hermann family is in trouble." This sentence was like a thunderbolt, knocking the 3 of them unconscious. Amir's eyes darkened and he fell to the ground in a coma. Othello and his brother also had their legs limp and fell directly to the ground. "It's over, it's over." Othello was a little confused. Chapter 83. The series of shots from multiple forces directly stunned the Corsi family. The goods were put on hold, preventing them from being able to settle the payment for the goods. A flood of orders flooded them, and the family suffered a major blow. Amir woke up the next day. As soon as he woke up, his first words were, "Is the business like this? It's all over," his eldest son cried. Hearing this, Amir almost fainted again, but still forced a smile and said, "What about the specific loss? Almost all the property has been sold, and there is still a gap of more than 1,000 hinters." Othello said bitterly, he didn't know what happened. In just 2 days, such a thing happened. Who brought such misfortune to the family? More than 1,000, He. Amir closed his eyes in despair. More than 1,000 hinters, what a lot. This is why their business is not good. Once it is wrong, the loss will be sky high. The only way out is to say that the merchants will give them the goods. What about the Chamber of Commerce, have you asked if we can solve it? Amir looked at his eldest son, who was usually decisive and brave at this time. He is a real person sitting at home, and disaster comes from heaven. Father, when I went to the Rose Chamber of Commerce, Roland didn't see me at all. He kept pushing himself and went to the Kazan Chamber of Commerce. The fat man talked to me, but didn't go to the center. The eldest son sighed. Damn, if you know who did it, I must kill him. Othello said angrily. He is about to become the director of the library. It is simply inexplicable to encounter such a thing. Forget it, we can hold on for a few more days. Amir asked with a sigh after looking at the unsatisfactory son. 2 days, said the eldest son with difficulty. Now even our castle has been mortgaged, and the mother and others have been driven out. We don't even have a place to live now. The eldest son continued. Is that so? Amir rubbed his dizzy head. Then father, do you want to borrow some money from other viscounts and earls? Let's talk about it first. Othello died of anxiety. If the family really fell, what would happen to his future? Humph, all the industries are gone, and the channels are gone. In this situation, who will lend us money? Amir said bitterly. They are united by interests, so when there is no profit, that is when they go their separate ways. Then what should I do? Othello frowned, his tone seemed to be scolding. How do you talk to your father? The eldest son on the side couldn't stand it any longer and stared at Othello. Humph. Othello glared at him and stopped talking. Forget it, there is only one way to go now. Amir finally thought about it and finally sighed. What way? Othello's eyes lit up. Leave King's Landing, run. There were only the 3 of them here, but Amir still whispered. The 3 widened their eyes. 3 days later. Eli gets word that the Corsi family has run away. It seems that he left King's Landing overnight with something. It is said that he was going to another country, leaving behind a large number of angry business people who did not receive their goods and money. And their channels and industries were divided up by the Elena family, the Gremery family, the Rose Chamber of Commerce, and the Kazan Chamber of Commerce. The former 2 took most of it, and the latter 2 got a little. All parties are very satisfied. It is an obligatory action, and it is better to receive benefits. The only thing that surprised Eli was that Othello didn't leave, and stayed in King's Landing alone, thinking about his curator's dream. Eli, why haven't you dealt with my stuff? Eli's room was pushed open again by Othello, his face angry. When the family left, he was helpless, but he didn't leave, because he felt that as long as he became the librarian, these things would always be resolved slowly, and he would become the hero of the family. And he is also reluctant to the upcoming fame and fortune. So in the past few days, he vented the family's failures on everyone in the library. In just 2 days, everyone deeply disliked this guy and wished him to leave quickly. Okay, I'll handle it for you. I thought Eli would reject it, but unexpectedly accepted it. You're sensible. Othello was taken aback. In the past 2 days, everyone seemed to be full of malice towards him. I didn't expect Eli to be so polite here. It seemed that he was wrong to blame the young man. I still respect him, Othello. Not bad, that's how it should be. Othello smiled, turned, and walked out. Looking at his back, Eli smiled. What a poor man. After 1 day, Othello is dead. It is said to have died in an alley. No one knew who killed him, only that when he was found, his body was already a little stinky in the heat, and his face didn't even look like it was originally. There is no doubt that someone specifically killed him. As for the most likely, it was the group of angry businessmen who were owed money, and since Othello was alone and no one helped to investigate, this matter was left unresolved. And just after this, the election of the curator also began. Because of Othello's sudden death, elections were once again the responsibility of the library. On the other hand, the team of scholars who went out to visit and study suddenly returned, which broke the plans of the nobles, and the right to vote returned to the library. The elections started normally. One is the experienced and diligent bachelor Lemon, and the other is the deputy director of the bachelor who just got promoted a few years ago. Lemon was stunned. Inexplicably, he became the director of the library again. He didn't do anything, How could it be like this? This day. In a convention hall. At this time, there are people in the hall, and these are the library's own people, including some people from other forces, because today is the succession ceremony of the library director. Eli stood beside Lemon and followed him to the high platform in the center. Amid the blessings of a group of maesters and maesters, Lemon took a quaint cane and a badge representing his identity, and smiled. Everyone who lowered them smiled and applauded enthusiastically. Many people breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the sudden collapse of the Corsi family, or else there will be a real chaos. No one wants to suddenly become the private institution of the king. Are such scholars serving people or studying and researching? Just when everyone applauded, in the corner, a charming woman opened her mouth. She patted the woman beside her and asked, "Is that old man Maester Lemon?" "Yeah, Hella, don't you know? The woman is also a bachelor, but next to him is the famous bachelor Hella." "Who is that kid next to him?" Hella asked again. He seems to be Lemon's student, let's call it Eli." After hearing this, Hella was stunned on the spot. "How many years have you been?" 10 years? She always thought that Eli was Lemon, and even let the deputy curator out. Hella was confused. Reality is so magical. Chapter 84. Just as this side of the library is celebrating Maester Lemon's appointment as curator. Meanwhile, the royal palace. In a not-so-big palace, King Burn 7 was lying on a luxurious and gorgeous gauze bed, with his head resting on his soft and tender thighs, and 2 slender hands rubbing his temples. "Your Majesty, I got the news that the Corsi family fled King's Landing overnight, and a bachelor named Lemon became the director of the library." The woman was beautiful and dignified. "Oh, is it?" The man on Yu's lap opened his eyes. His face is very similar to Burn 6, but he is much younger than him, and he seems to lack a bit of domineering, but a bit of unspeakable melancholy. "Well, it seems that your Majesty did not succeed in this move." The woman gently rubbed the man's temple and said with a smile. "Want to check it out?" "Forget it, no need, it was just a trial." Burn 7 sat up and held the woman in his arms. "The former curator Severo Mesa is a good friend of my father. I can't do anything, so I can only do this. This time, it is probably what he did. This old guy is very thoughtful." Burn 7 calmly said. "Even if you go to check, most likely you won't find it, and there is a high probability that you will find an ordinary person, which is meaningless. Then, your Majesty, let the Imperial Library continue to develop like this." The woman didn't understand. "It's okay, Severo Mesa has been seriously injured, and it is estimated that he will not have many years to live. When he dies, I will slowly take over the Imperial Library and wait with peace of mind." Burn 7 pushed the woman down on the bed and looked down at her. Although he is 45 years old, he is still determined and powerful by relying on the physical fitness of the great knight. The woman's cheeks were flushed with anticipation. "Forget it, a few more." Burn 7 sat up and shouted outside, and a few women came in again. The door closed tightly. Yawn. At the same time, in the Bine Empire, Severo Mesa, who had just sneaked into an ancient tomb, yawned and scratched his nose. "It always feels like someone is talking about me." Severo pursed his lips. But it was only for a moment, and then he concentrated on the excavation of the ancient tomb. He has been in this uninhabited place for a week, who would talk about him? It is really nonsensical, it is better to concentrate on the excavation of the ancient tomb. This time, I feel like I can find it. Severo smiled on his face surrounded by a scarf. 3 hours later, he left with a look of embarrassment. "I'll go to his god, is this a rat's nest or an ancient tomb?" Severo left with a look of frustration. Needless to say, this time there was no gain. He took out a map of the Burn Empire and drew a cross somewhere. Looking closely, the forks on the map have been drawn almost 3/4 of the way, most of them have been explored before, and the rest are unexplored. Almost. What are the benefits of your own teacher being a curator? Eli felt it clearly. First, other people will be more polite when they meet you. Secondly, you are more free to commute, and the guards will not stop you. Finally, all books in the library can be seen, even the hidden ones. What can I say, it feels very good. Of course, compared to the happy Eli, Bachelor Lemon is a lot sadder. Although it is good to be a curator, he has to deal with more things. He is a 68-year-old old man, and it is also very hard, so he decisively pulls his good student Herman came to handle the work together. Herman looked dazed, staring at the pile of documents on the table every day. Why is it always him who gets hurt? He is 35 years old. Can't let him rest for the rest of his life? He had to work during the day and at night, and he felt like he was going to be drained. The empire is weakening normally day by day, and Eli clocks in and leaves work normally every day. For Eli, the peace of life is far more than the storm, and he began to devote himself to the experiment. Currently he has a total of 2 main experiments. One is the in-depth study of potions and the configuration of spiritual potions. The study of potions has been the main content of his research, and his level has been slowly and steadily improving. Compared with 10 years ago, his level in potions has increased by at least 2 times, and many potions are also at his fingertips. However, it is a long way to go to prepare a potion to enhance spiritual power, and the progress has been slow. The main reason is that this precious formula is not recorded on the advanced potions, so Eli can only find a way to configure it himself, but it is never an easy thing to create something from nothing. The second is the study of blood vessels. After all, he has a total of 4 textbooks for wizards, and his notes are also considered one. No matter what, the book Bloodline Selection of the Bloodline Warlock is mainly theoretical, but it still has some practical applications. Eli been trying to learn. This is also the reason why he asked Zhongli to help him get some monster blood. Mainly because the blood he had collected before was almost used up. The study of blood vessels is more complicated, and the required experimental equipment and receptors are more troublesome, so he put this in the valley outside the city. Forget it, it's time to go outside today. Seeing that it was still early, Eli decided to do a bloodline experiment today. Leaving King's Landing all the way, Eli came to his secret base. Calmly walked into the entrance with more than a dozen witch formations, which is enough to ensure that if anyone breaks into this place, it will be buried in an instant, ensuring that the things inside will not be discovered. Enter. It was quiet inside. There are only 7 or 8 grottos scattered on the stone walls, and there seems to be something inside. Eliping calmly walked into the one on the far left. This is a laboratory-like place, mainly animal experiment subjects, including mice, wolves, tigers, and mainly monkeys. I have to say that monkeys are really good as experimental materials for blood. It may be worse than the human body, mainly because human experiments are rare. Except for the occasional wicked person in the slave market, he will not use innocent people for human experiments. He is still human. Let's start the experiment. Eli looked around and anesthetized a monkey. Take out the prepared experimental materials. This time, the experiment he is doing is a flesh and blood experiment. He will try to transplant the hand of another wolf into it. Soon, the experiment began. Eli began to operate seriously. Compared with simple elemental experiments, this type of experiment is still very difficult, mainly because of rejection and the destruction of limbs by elemental fusion. The reason for this experiment is that Eli has an idea to verify. As for whether this idea is useful to Eli's strength? Really useless. Who said that experiments have to be useful? Knowledge is power. This process is an asset to Eli in itself. This is one of the dull and tedious routines of an immortal wizard. Chapter 85. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years passed. Everything is calm, nothing has changed. A regular life is full of motivation. Eli is experimenting every day, going to work, studying, and occasionally having fun, and doing these things every day. And the seeds planted more than 10 years ago still haven't sprouted. Eli feels very strange. He is poured with nutrient solution every day. Why can't this thing be turned on? However, after research, Eli found that it should be the seed of a tree, and the quality is very high. Maybe in the future, Eli can provide Eli with the main material of a staff to improve his combat effectiveness. His current staff is that staff, which is a little better than before. On this day, Eli, who was returning home from get off work, received a message. The curator is back. Eli is very happy. After all, there is someone to help you find Saren Meditlin's legacy, which is indeed a happy thing. In fact, Eli expecting the curator to find nature is not without reason. He also has a motive that he must find, that is, he currently does not have any model of witchcraft. Even if he has enough mental power in the future, he will not be able to break through the official wizard. He expected what he wanted in Saren Meditlin's legacy. It's still the same old place. Director, how's it going this time? This time, the curator seems to be going to a relatively remote place. At this time, his hair and clothes are in a mess, and it seems that it has not been cleaned for a long time, and there is also a scar on his face, which can be seen by a wild animal. Hey, don't mention it, let's have something to drink first. Severo sighed, picked up the wine glass beside him, and drank heavily. After drinking 2 bottles in one breath, he seemed to feel a little more comfortable, and sighed, don't mention it, I searched a lot of places, but I couldn't find it at all. Instead, I was almost killed by a devil bear in the east of Kanghai Forest. It's okay, life is the most important thing. Eli sighed. Although I hope that Severo can find it, it is best to find it alive. Moreover, the demon bear that can hurt Othello is at least in the late stage of Zero Ring. It can only be said that it is still a little dangerous outside. Eli has determined that this time less than a third-class apprentice will never put himself in such danger. Indeed. Severo was a little frustrated, but then he became firm again, and said to himself, the remaining range is getting smaller and smaller, I feel that it will be soon, and I will definitely find it. And I was injured when I was young. This time is really my last chance. Even if I die, I will find this group of wizards. Othello firmly said that finding wizards may not really be of any use to him, but when something becomes an obsession, it really cannot be changed. Okay, if there is a need, I can support you with some things, and I still have some friends. Eli encouraged. Really? Then I'm welcome. Severo looked surprised. Eli was stunned for a moment, then nodded, of course. It's just a little thing, of course there's nothing wrong with it. That's great. I haven't worked for 20 years, so I don't have any income. Now I can't support it anymore. Eli, you are really my good friend. He patted Eli on the shoulder and smiled. Come on. The wine glasses collided, and the two drank heavily. After 3 days, pack your bags. Severo set off again with his own and Eli's expectations, to a mountain range in the northern part of the Bane Empire, where Saren Meditlan once lived for a month. 3 months later, he returned again embarrassed and lost his salute. Eli once again thoughtfully replenished him with supplies, and 5 days later, Severo set off again. This time the destination was an inland lake in the south of the empire. 5 months later, Severo returns again. It is said that he started the investigation directly from the vicinity, and finally even dived into the bottom of the lake and searched for the ground there, but the legacy of Saren Meditlan was not found. Instead, he encountered a group of extraordinary fish. Escape. Although Severo Mesa failed at this time, he was still full of confidence. He still believed that he could find it. Eli didn't say anything, just thoughtfully subsidized the supplies. Severo was very moved. Go ahead and start looking. This life lasted for 2 years. Eli also almost provided dozens of Hintar's supplies. He didn't feel much about it, but Severo seemed a little embarrassed. In the tavern. Eli, thank you very much for supporting me for so long, but I still haven't found it for more than 2 years. I feel a little difficult, and I don't have the money to pay you back. Severo was already a little shaken at this time. It doesn't matter, it's just a little money. This is my wish, but I think you should rest for a while. Eli comforted. At this time, Severo's condition was even worse, his physical fitness was weakened, and there were several more wounds on his body. At this time, Eli also knew that Severo had an old injury, and his vitality was severely drained. Be better. No need, I'm running out of time. Severo smiled reluctantly, and lost his previous confidence. Yet. Eli nodded silently. This time, Severo, sent by Eli himself, left. Thank you. Severo thanked and rode away. Eli watched his back disappear into the horizon and returned. Another year. Eli, I can definitely find it, don't stop me. At this point, Severo felt a little stunned, and Eli stopped him to let him rest. No, you can't go out. Eli looked at his state, his mental state was very poor, how could he go out like this? At this point he seems to have desperate for everything, even his life. Completely drilled into the horns, there is no way. In the end, he was forcibly sent home by Eli. As much as Eli wished he would find it, it definitely wasn't this way. But on the 3rd day he sent Severo back. Eli learned that Severo had run away, and then left Eli a letter with only one line in it. When a rock rolls down a hill, it doesn't stop until it reaches the bottom. Eli was silent. He sighed and went home. Half year later. Eli got news of Severo for the last time. Severo was caught, he was taken to the prison, and he was about to die. And when Eli found out about Othello, he realized that he actually went directly to dig the tomb of the emperor, and directly dug the tomb of Sarenmetitlan, so he was arrested. When everyone heard the news, they were all in disbelief. Eli went home in silence. Eli was stunned when he found that there was an extra letter in the mailbox. Because the material of the letter is exactly what Severo often wrote to him. There are only 4 words on the letter. I found it. Chapter 86. I found it. There were only 4 simple words on the white stationery, and Eli, who was familiar with Severo Mesa, was sure that this was his font. This letter may be that he just finished exploring the tomb, and then immediately shared it with Eli, and then got caught. Found it? What did you find? Eli took the letter and was a little puzzled. Did you find Sarenmetitlan's legacy? Is it in the mausoleum? What is the legacy? Or was there something in the mausoleum that allowed him to determine where Sarenmetitlan's stuff was? Hey, no, I have to see Severo Mesa. After hesitating, Eli still thought it would be good to see Severo Mesa. As for where is the former curator? Eli decides to go to his teacher. In the library. 3 floors. In the curator's study, Eli saw the teacher. Eli, don't you need to go to work today? Do I have anything to do with the teacher? Lemon helped his eyes on his nose. His eyesight has not been very good over the years. Well, teacher, I do have something I want to know. Eli nodded. Let's talk. Eli had been with him for more than 20 years, and there was no need to say too much between them. Well, teacher, I want to know the situation of the former curator Severo Mesa. Eli said without shyness. Raymond raised his head sharply, his eyes widened, and said, don't take part in this matter, now that Burn 7 is very angry, he will definitely not be able to live. I also respect this curator a lot, but what he did this time was so extreme that no one could help him. Excessive? Digging people's ancestral graves seems to be too much. But looking at Eli's firm eyes, Lemon's heart softened again, and said, really, I know you have some connection with Severo Mesa, but give it up, no one can save him. Eli still didn't speak. Got it, I'm really out of luck. How can there be students like you and Herman? I'll help you find the news, don't do anything else, who made you my student? Lai Meng sighed. To him, he had no children and no children. To him, Herman and Eli were the closest people. At this time, he was as helpless as an old father. Hey, thank you teacher. Eli laughed when he knew that the teacher would agree. What are you laughing at? I still have a lot of work here. You helped me finish it today. Okay, I'll come, teacher, you go to rest. A brisk voice came. Lemon had a smile on his face. Lemon is now the director of the Imperial Library. His social status and information channels are not comparable to before. Soon, he collected what Eli wanted. Looking at the letter handed over, Eli took it. This is all the content, remember to destroy it after reading it. Lemon watched Eli took the envelope and said. Okay, teacher. Eli was a little surprised. It took less than half a day to find all the information. It can only be said that it is good to have a curator and teacher. Teacher, I've finished my work, so I'll go first. Lemon's work, Eli, was almost done, so he was ready to go back and read the contents of this letter. Yet. Raymond nodded and watched Eli walk out the door. But as soon as Eli arrived at the door, he called Eli again. Eli, you are very smart, but don't do stupid things. Lemon was still a little worried. Teacher, don't worry, what can I do as an ordinary person? Eli smiled and walked out of the room. Soon, he returned home. Open the letter paper, which records all the process. The cause of the incident was that 5 days ago, a guard of the Imperial Mausoleum suddenly felt very uncomfortable in his stomach during his daily inspection, so he was going to find a nearby wood to solve it, but he found a big hole between the trees. The guard was so shocked that he didn't even bother to lift his pants. Report it immediately. A group of 2 large knights and a dozen knights surrounded the cave. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, Severo Mesa climbed out and was arrested. Finally, after investigation, it was found that the end of the cave was the Imperial Mausoleum. Burn 7 was furious, and Severo Mesa was thrown into prison, where he would be beheaded 10 days later. The curator is unlucky. After reading this, Eli's mouth twitched. If it wasn't for the guard's stomachache, how could he go to such a remote wood, and he wouldn't have found the hole, let alone Severo Mesa. All I can say is that it was a coincidence. Oh, what a pity. Eli shook his head, then glanced at the address where Severo Mesa was currently arrested. The Second Empire Prison, the deepest point, room 3. Okay, I have to go. Eli turned around to prepare for action, but the next second, he was stunned. He has to inquire about the configuration of the prison first. And this inquiry took another half a day. The second prison of the kingdom, because it mainly detains important people and prisoners in the empire, the prison as a whole is very luxurious. Whether it is the walls or the ground, tough iron stones are used, which is a kind of high-density stone. And the guards here. In addition to a small number of soldiers, knights should be the main body, and there will even be a big knight guarding here at any time to prevent anyone from escaping. There are indeed a lot of guards, but they don't seem to be many. The most important thing is not to cause too much commotion, otherwise there may be support at any time. Eli made a brief analysis. He not only inquired about the prison, but even took a copy of the surrounding map. After all, he was going in to find someone, so he must be well prepared. But there is one thing to say, in fact, the risk is not very high. Sneaking in is not difficult with a little trick. Soon, Eli thought of a good way to let him sneak in. Although the guard here is a great knight, the warden who is really in charge of this place is just an ordinary person, but it is because he is a member of the great nobles that he can become the warden. Instead of sneaking in bitterly, why not just walk in straight and open? On the contrary, it is safer to sneak in openly. Anyway, he has a faceless mask, which can be disguised. After all, this is a normal kingdom of knights, and no one would have thought that there is such a thing. Oh, who is the warden? Eli looked at the collected information. A name catches Eli's eyes. Karen Herman. The third son of Marquis Herman, a middle-level knight, once studied at the Imperial Knights Academy, and became the warden of the Imperial Second Prison at the age of 26. He recently came to the Imperial Second Prison for a month. The Herman family, isn't this the sworn enemy of the Elena family? Of course, this is not important. The important thing is that he has only been in office for a month, and he must be unfamiliar with the place, which surprised Eli. It won't be difficult. Eli smiled. Chapter 87. Karen Herman. The third son of the Herman family, but he moved out of the Herman family's manor a few years ago and lived alone in a manor not far from King's Landing. This is his manor. Eli glanced at the manor not far away, his figure turned into a shadow, and quickly sneaked in towards the manor. It was just an ordinary manor, how could it be possible to stop Eli? Soon, Eli searched the manor and confirmed Karen's location. Beauty, you look so beautiful today. In the room, Karen smiled and showed a wretched smile to the woman on the bed. He is about 1.7 meters tall, with a short and fat body, a round and fleshy face, and a lot of pimples. He looks very ordinary, even a little ugly. The woman, on the other hand, is slender and has a feeling of weakness, but the woman has some regrets at this time. She had heard from her father that the direct descendants of the Herman family wanted to see her. She was very surprised, but seeing it even made her want to vomit. Too ugly, but there is no chance to regret it. I'm here. Karen pursed her lips. The woman in front of her was very beautiful, and he could easily get it with simple means, which made him feel very good. Karen smiled and walked towards the woman, but suddenly felt a little dizzy. Shaking his heavy head, he looked at the woman in front of him, who was already unconscious. Something's wrong. Karen's eyes widened, and the next second, her eyes were blurred, and she fell heavily to the ground. Just kidding, even the great knight may not be able to stop the drug, can you? After the two fell unconscious, Eli walked in from the window, looked at the two, and raised his brows. This drug is enough for a normal person to be in a coma for a long time, so there is no need to worry about women. Let's take a look at the target this time, Karen. Looking at the stool beside him, Eli tied it directly to the stool, and then gagged his mouth. Wake up, Karen. Woohoo. Suddenly a whimpering voice came out of his mouth. What happened? He was stunned. Then he saw that the eyes of the man in front of him seemed to light up, and he fell into a coma again. 10 minutes later. The man fell unconscious on the chair. Eli nodded in satisfaction, he already knew everything. Originally he wanted to get more information about the prison from Karen, but knowing that he had only been there once and knew almost nothing, Eli was shocked. He knows that some nobles are more loose and free, but you are going too far. However, Eli is more relaxed in this way. In this case, the prison also knows nothing about him, so it is more relaxed. Enduring the nausea, Eli took off Karen's clothes, changed her appearance and body through the mask, and quickly changed into Karen's appearance, and then put the clothes on. Looking at the mirror for a comparison, it is exactly the same as Karen not far away. Yes, that's enough. Eli smiled and turned to look at the two not far away. Lifting them straight into the bed, making sure they wouldn't wake up for a day, then Eli strode out of the house. Master. There was also a guard at the door at this time, who was seriously standing guard at this time. Not bad, very energetic and good at standing guard. Eli praised. Everything is for the sake of the adults. With me, I won't let a bug in. The guard looked excited. Not bad. Eli nodded. Prepare the carriage now, I'm going to the second prison. In the 10 minutes just now, Eli had already understood Karen's tone and some habits. It may be a little flawed, but it's not a big deal. Yes. Although the guard was a little strange, after all, it was almost night, but he didn't say anything. Oh, by the way, you just stay here. Before tomorrow, don't open the door or let anyone in. I trust you very much, so I leave this task to you. Eli patted the guard on the shoulder and encouraged him. Road. Yes. The guard was in high spirits. God, he was actually appreciated by the master today. Soon, the carriage was arranged. The carriage took Eli all the way towards the second prison of the Empire. After 10 minutes, they arrived at their destination. Eli walked straight down, swaggering towards the inside. 2 low-level knights were guarding the door, and when they saw someone coming, they were about to stop them. Don't you have eyes? Don't you see who this is? This is the warden, Lord Karen. Eli shouted loudly before Eli could speak, even the man who was the driver and his bodyguard. Sorry, Lord Warden. The 2 guards were also taken aback for a while, and glanced at Eli, but they didn't expect it to be Lord Warden. After all, he has only been here once, and now it is dark and windy again, so the 2 may not have seen it clearly. It's okay, I have something to do. Eli waved his hand generously and walked in directly, but the 2 guards didn't dare to stop him. I'm going to see Severo, do you know where he is? As if remembering something, Eli turned his head and asked. Lord Warden, Severo should be at the bottom, so he is in solitary confinement, I'll take you there. The guard hesitated, but still said. In fact, normally, Severo is no longer allowed to see him at this time, but who is the warden in front of him? No one dares to stop him if he wants to see. Okay, then it's up to you to take me to see him. Eli smiled. That's right. Why bother to sneak in, isn't it bad to enter with justice? Don't look at the transformation effect of the faceless mask, it seems useless, but you have to see it in the Kingdom of Knights. This is definitely a real god-level item, you can go anywhere, but you need to be careful. If it is in a world without transcendence, it will be even more terrifying. In this way, Eli was taken all the way to the bottom, all the way down. Hey, how did I hear that Severo was locked up in room 3? Eli asked as he looked at room 3 as he passed by. That is the news that was released. Severo is a great knight. How could he be locked there? The place where he is locked is more hidden, and it is difficult for normal people to find it. The guard explained. You may not come often, so it's not very clear. Oh, so. Eli nodded. It's a shame I didn't come in by myself. Soon, through a secret passage, Eli came to a floor that was not recorded. Sir, Severo is locked in the innermost, but his condition may not be very good. The guard said. Not too good. Eli frowned. Just as Eli entered. In another room. The warden has gone to see Severo, the guard reported. Oh, if he wants to see him, he can see him. Anyway, he is the warden. As long as he doesn't pull him out, he can come wherever he wants. The guard was reporting the only great knight here. The guards leave. The big knight started exercising normally and didn't think there was any problem. Chapter 88. This floor where Severo is held is completely hidden and used only for the most important prisoners. At present, there are not many people detained here, only 5 or 6, and they are detained in the prisons on both sides. Eli looked at them and found that they were all lying inside, completely losing the desire to survive. Sir, Severo is at the innermost. The guard walked in front and said. Soon, a few people came to the end and came to a huge iron door. On the iron door, there was only an iron window 10 centimeters long and 5 centimeters wide. Eli looked in through here, and the scene inside caught Eli's eyes. In the prison with no light at all, Severo's feet were cuffed with heavy chains, and his hands were also dragged in mid-air. And if Eli is not mistaken, Severo at this time has wounds everywhere, and his vitality is almost like a weak flame, which has been completely overdrawn, and even Eli thinks that he will die in the next second. There is no help. What happened? Eli looked at Severo with a rare sadness. Sir, you don't know how terrifying this old guy was at that time. He fought dozens of knights by himself, killed more than a dozen high-level knights, and was completely dead. He also killed a big knight, and the other big knight was also deep. He was seriously injured, and in the end, he couldn't hold it under the siege, or he might have run away, and now he's already dying. The guard said with a look of fear, as if he was the person involved. Well, you all leave, I want to go in and have a look. Eli said. But, my lord, this is still dangerous. The guard advised. Master, you can't go in, it's too dangerous. Eli's bodyguard also strongly discouraged him. Go away, I want to go in. Eli stared at the two of them. Okay. The guard hesitated for a moment, then immediately went to get the key, returned quickly, and opened the door. Eli's bodyguard glanced at it, but also hesitated to leave. Severo. Eli walked in directly and walked towards the darkness. Cough. In the darkness, Severo coughed twice. In the darkness, under his loose hair, he could not see Eli. Who are you? Am I dying? He gasped hard. You are indeed dying, and your vitality is about to be extinguished. Eli said softly. Oh. This time, Severo said nothing. In the darkness, he could only hear voices, but could not see Eli's appearance. Why don't you talk, just like before, let's talk about what happened to you this time. Eli said with a smile. Severo? Why does it feel a little familiar? Hey, it's really worrying, old friend, I told you not to do this before. Eli shook his head, approached slowly, and his appearance gradually changed, returning to his own appearance. This time it was close enough that Severo saw Eli's face. Eyes widened. Eli. Severo's eyes widened, as if he couldn't believe it. Isn't this the deepest part of the prison? How did he get in? How did you get in? Severo coughed up blood, his face a bit strange. You guy, didn't you write a letter and didn't write clearly what you found, didn't I come to see you? Eli replied. Severo. He understands this, but how did you get in? Let's talk, what did you find this time? Eli sat on the ground, and then took out a bottle of rum from his arms, who knows what he brought it out of his heart. Damn, you bastard! Severo's dry mouth grinned at the smell of wine, but he found himself trapped and couldn't move at all. Click click. Suddenly, two wind noises passed by. The sound of metal cutting sounded, boasting, and Severo fell directly from the air, looking at the broken chains on both sides of his hands, he was dumbfounded. This is it. Severo said, tremblingly. Sit down and drink and talk. Eli just said. Okay. With all his doubts, Severo sat down, gritted his teeth and sat down, because his injuries were too severe. Tell me about you first. Eli said. Okay. Severo took the rum with difficulty and took a sip. Since I left King's Landing for the last time, I've had the intention of dying outside if I don't find it. I've been looking for it, but my condition seems to be getting worse and worse. Then, 3 months ago, I finally finished collecting all the places I wanted to check, leaving the last 2 places, of which the Imperial Mausoleum was one of them. Severo said without shyness, took a sip of wine and spit blood. Eli sat opposite, watching him calmly. And where did you find it? Eli asked. No, there's nothing in it, it's just an empty shell. Severo laughed, coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood, and said, instead, I was discovered, I wanted to escape, but there were too many of them, so this is the case now. Looks like it. Eli didn't mind taking a sip of the rum, and then said. Then what did you say you found? Didn't I tell you before that there are only 2 places left, that one is not, the other one will naturally be. Severo glanced at Eli, and spat out another mouthful of blood, this time with some flesh and viscera. Eli didn't stop. Because of Severo's state, even if he doesn't come today, it will be very difficult to live today, and it is really hopeless. Where is it? Underground in the main hall of the palace. Severo said directly without shyness. Under the hall. Eli raised his brows. Then how are you sure it's not anywhere else in the palace? I've searched all the other places more than 10 years ago, but I haven't found them there. When I think about it now, it really doesn't seem right. It's obviously solid, but once I felt a slight echo, coming from underground. If it weren't for me being a top knight, and I was good at perception, I wouldn't have heard it, but I didn't think much about it at the time. And it seems that Saren Medetlan used to be there before he died. Now it seems that the bottom of the main hall is definitely there. Severo said bitterly. If only he had noticed this a dozen years ago. Is that so? Eli was also shocked. Unexpectedly, Severo Mesa actually found it. But if it's really there, it's really going to be a long-term plan. What about you guy, what's the situation? Severo Mesa then looked at Eli. Eli didn't answer, the palm of his right hand moved, and a burning fireball appeared. The firelight illuminated the faces of the two, and Severo Mesa was completely stunned. He looked at Eli without making a sound for a long time. So my dream has already come true. After a few minutes, Severo said tremblingly. Sorry. Eli put away the fireball and apologized. It doesn't matter, ha 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 ha, I found it, I said long ago that wizards exist, ha 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 ha. Severo Mesa burst out laughing, spitting out his guts along the blood. He looked at Eli and said, thank you, I have no regrets in this life. I feel that I may die soon, can you go out? I don't want you to see me in a mess. Also, I still have a daughter in King's Landing. She will be in danger after I die. Can you help me send her out of King's Landing? Okay. Eli picked up the rum and walked out of the room. 5 minutes later. Eli felt the breath of the door behind him disappear. Enter again. Severo has fallen to the ground, with a smile on his face, lost his breath of life. Hey! Eli sighed. Chapter 89. After Severo died, Eli sighed, turned, and walked outside. 2 guards are waiting. Let's go. Eli said directly. Okay. The guard nodded. Master Warden, how is Severo's condition now, should I go in and have a look? The prison guard was a little hesitant. His condition is not bad, let's see later. Eli changed into Karen's appearance at this time, calmly said. It is good. In this way, Eli was taken all the way out of the prison without anyone stopping him. Eli got into the carriage and returned to the original road. On the way, Eli made an excuse, got out of the car, and left here directly. He secretly returned to King's Landing and went home. When the guards wondered why the master still hadn't come back, 3 hours later, he finally realized that something was wrong, and he searched around, but couldn't find any trace. It's over. The guard felt wrong and prepared to leave and return to the manor. When they arrived at the manor, after the report, everyone was shocked. The guards who had been guarding outside the door also mustered up the courage to open the door, and saw Karen who was and fell into a coma on the bed. The Herman family was surprised. Meanwhile, in prison. When the guards returned and saw Severo Mesa, who had died, and the broken chain, they all understood that something big had happened. The big knight in charge here is also stunned. Immediately take a group of knights to the Herman family to ask for an explanation. Marquis Herman was also dumbfounded, and the other side also knew about Karen who was in a coma, and everyone was stupid. So he told the great knight who was stationed about it, but the great knight believed that his guard's ability was average, but he was not blind. How could so many people admit that he was wrong? It was immediately believed that Marquis Herman was covering up Kevin and reported directly to King Bern 7. Bern 7 is furious. Kevin was ordered to be arrested. At the same time, the Herman family was also in bad luck. They were directly searched, and a large number of violations of the laws of the empire were found. Then the title was directly cut off, and the entire family was searched. And when Kevin, who just woke up, saw a dozen knights around him, he was immediately stupid, and when he learned what he had done, everyone was even more stupid and quickly denied it, but no one believed it at all. or that the king did not want to believe it. In this way, when Alex woke up, he heard the news that his old enemy was arrested, and people were also confused. When people sleep at home, good things come from heaven. As for why Burn 7 reacted so fiercely, there is naturally a reason. First of all, what was dug was the imperial mausoleum, which represented the dignity of the royal family, and this matter was also publicized. The king had to give a tough answer. As a result, the Hermann family met the muzzle of the gun, and naturally it did not end well. Ordinary nobles care so much about their face, not to mention the biggest nobles in this country. The second is that everyone is watching. If he doesn't give a reasonable treatment, then the prestige of Burn 7 will be reduced again. This time even he has no choice and must do it. Of course these are later stories. Day 3. The Imperial Library jointly retrieved Severo's body and buried it in the library's mausoleum. I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but it rained a lot. Eli presented Severo with a bouquet of flowers, then stood in the crowd watching the priest read his prayers. A woman who looks like a 30-year-old crying pear blossoms brought rain. In the rain, she did not hold an umbrella, and let the rain hit her body. Everyone could see her sadness. He is Severo's daughter. That's right, Severo's daughter is already 30 years old. After all, Severo is almost 60. How could her daughter be so young, but although she is 30, she is very beautiful. Hey! Eli sighed. In a way, Severo is a real pity. He actually has a very high wizard talent, but unfortunately he was born here, but Eli, who is generally gifted, got the wizard inheritance, which is really a mistake. His first 20 years were miserable. The middle 20 years were brilliant. For the next 2 decades, it has been pursuing. This is Severo's life, bright and brilliant. After the banquet, the others left. Eli followed Severo's daughter and quickly caught up with her. Hello, I'm your father's friend. I'm also very sad when your father died, but King's Landing is not suitable for you to stay for a long time. Eli said directly. The woman was also shocked, but when Eli took out a bracelet that Severo had taken from Severo before leaving, the woman nodded. It was the necklace that my father always carried, and it was impossible for outsiders to get it. Okay. The woman is also very straightforward, she understands that King's Landing is indeed not suitable for her. Okay, I'll make arrangements when the time comes, just go home and clean up. Eli said directly. The two separate. Now that he has promised Severo, Eli will naturally do it. 3 hours later. A convoy with a large amount of goods departed from the Kazan Chamber of Commerce, and the destination was the Kingdom of Lorraine. In a carriage. You will be safe when you arrive at the Lorraine Kingdom. Someone will take care of everything. You don't need to worry about money for the rest of your life. Eli said to the woman in the carriage. Not bad. The woman was a little hesitant, getting so many benefits for no reason, sending her away, and everything was arranged. If she remembered correctly, his father was in a state of hardship for a long time, so how could he be able to pay in advance? Don't worry, Severo has paid me enough. Eli said, seeming to see what the woman was thinking. Severo has indeed given his pay. That's a 90% chance that Saren Meditlin's legacy will remain. For Eli, that's enough to be worth a manor. What's more, Severo sacrificed his life for it. This is what I should do, I will send it here, and the journey is smooth. Eli said goodbye. I will definitely repay you in the future. The woman thanked her face. No, I just did what I was supposed to do. Shaking his head, Eli got out of the car directly. There are many people on the road a few kilometers away from Jun's Landing. Glancing at the long convoy, Eli turned back to King's Landing. Although Severo died, he left behind a very precious piece of information. Saline Meditlin's remains are in the palace, and it is still underground in the main hall. It was impossible to excavate without any movement in that place, and even the number of great knights in the palace was unknown, even Eli. It was absolutely impossible to escape in the hands of more than a dozen great knights. Therefore, this matter must not be reckless, and must be fully prepared. If it was Severo, he might sneak into the palace immediately. And Eli's thinking is... Wait. Been waiting. Always wait for an opportunity. Chapter 90. If you put the time in a day, a week, even a month, half a year, the chances will always be less, maybe even zero. But if the time is infinitely stretched, then the probability of chance is 100%. And Eli, was waiting for this 100% chance. 5 years later. Eli had just finished a day's work and left the library when he heard the teacher call him. "Teacher, look for me." In the familiar library, Eli met the teacher. "Eli, here you are." Lemon raised his head and glanced at Eli. At this time, his hair and beard were all white, and the wrinkles on his arms were clearly visible. He was already 80. In this world, except for those great nights, he was really old. "Teacher, what's wrong?" Eli asked directly. At this time, his age should be 47 years old, and his appearance is like an uncle who looks a little vicissitudes of life. His eyes seem to be infiltrated with knowledge and full of different charm. At this time, no one has talked to him about marriage. Everyone knows that Eli Scholar is a man who likes to be alone. Oh, yes, so far, he is just a scholar, he just doesn't want to be promoted, otherwise, with his knowledge and the curator teacher, it would be very easy, mainly because he may have to bring students to become a bachelor, Eli thinks. If I had a student like Herman back then, it would definitely be a headache. Speaking of Herman, this guy is retired and has grandchildren, and Eli even gave his grandson a name. Over the years, he has known a lot of people who died, such as the kid from the Knights Academy who died in a duel, Roland's second son accidentally drowned, etc. In just 5 years, so much has changed. It is foreseeable that at a certain time in the future, Eli's friends will die on a large scale. Even just thinking about it makes me feel a little bad. Eli can only maintain his composure and focus on more important things. This keeps him motivated. "It's okay, you send this document out and see if anyone wants to try it." Lemon pushed out a document. Eli takes it. Glancing at random, his eyes suddenly lit up. He understands. Here comes the opportunity. The document simply wrote one thing, that is, His Majesty's 6-year-old eldest princess needs a teacher who is proficient in history for 5 years of education. Say it. Burn 7 originally had an eldest son, who died unexpectedly about 7 years ago. Currently, there is only one princess born 6 years ago, and according to Burn's regulations, women also have the right of inheritance. As the eldest princess, in the future, as long as she's not too bad, she has a chance to become King Burn 8. This is an opportunity for Eli. Excavating the main hall of the palace is not an easy task, but if the king wants to dig and rebuild it, who can control it? Eli's idea was simple. Controlled the future king, and when she takes over the throne, then it's time for him to reap. As for this may take a while to wait, that is a small problem. "Teacher, who is this for?" Eli turned his head and asked. "Are you interested in this?" Lemon raised his head, a rare glimpse of surprise in his eyes. As a student, the others are good, but he is very lazy. Lazy to communicate. Too lazy to move up. Too lazy to go out. Except for those friends I made when I was young, now I hardly attend any strangers' banquets, parties, and exchanges, and I don't take the initiative to make friends with other people. Although he vaguely seems to know that Eli's social circle is actually quite high-end, but he is not very clear. Anyway, he thinks Eli should meet more new friends. There are promotions, don't you just bring a student? This is not willing, but it is difficult for Raymond to understand this, and he deeply understands it. There is also going out, which is the most outrageous place for him. In 30 years, the only time he went out was for diplomacy with the Lorraine Kingdom, and he had never been out of the 10-kilometer range of King's Landing. "Do you want to try it?" Lemon asked again, his tone even a little impatient. I do have some ideas." Eli looked at Teacher Lemon's movements and smiled. "Is it so outrageous? Well, then I'll have a good chat with you." Lemon nodded and motioned for Eli to sit down. Eli sat down. "Well, in fact, every princess and prince has many teachers. These teachers are generally proficient in different aspects of knowledge and educate them. This is to ensure that they have their own multifaceted views. This time, the eldest princess needs a history teacher. If you are interested, you can really try it. As long as you are a scholar or bachelor of the Empire, you can try it." Lemon said. Eli nodded in understanding. "Well, what if there are a lot of people?" Eli asked. Generally it depends on the reputation, or someone will take the test, it depends on the individual ability, but if you don't even have a bachelor's degree, I'm afraid you may be brushed down directly, and you don't need to participate in the subsequent comparison." Lemon left. A glance at Eli, smiled. "Eli? Paid by mistake? Don't worry, but you are my student. If you have a letter of recommendation from me, you can still easily pass. Seeing Eli's appearance, Lemon laughed. If you don't work hard, you have to rely on him. This teacher. Teacher, I'll ask you for the letter of recommendation. Eli looked at Lemon with a smile. 1 month's work. 3 days. 20 days. 1 week. In the end, after a heated discussion, Eli won the recommendation letter with 10 days of help in handling the work. Thank you, teacher, then I'll leave. Eli left with a smile. You. Looking at Eli's appearance, he shook his head, not at all right. He once thought of letting Eli take his place, but after seeing Eli's attitude, he gave up this unrealistic idea and let him handle documents every day. It was impossible. Hey, why are the documents still there? Suddenly, he realized that Eli didn't take the documents with him. Eli, come back to me. Do you need a letter of recommendation? 3 days later. Eli went to the palace with a letter of recommendation from his teacher. Show the letter to a guard, and then Eli was taken all the way to the palace, through the corridors and gates, and led all the way to a building. Once in, Eli looked around. Good guy, so many people. There are more than a dozen people, and there are several university scholars. The others are also bachelors. Among them, there are famous university scholars. They are all sitting on the stools on both sides of the inside. The competition is fierce. Eli secretly called out good guy. He also sat silently on the chair at the back, ready to wait for the selection to begin. As soon as he sat down, a person sat beside him. Look sideways. At present, the famous female university scholar of the empire, Hella. Long time no see. Eli greeted.